Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the Town of Monroe's Board of Finance special meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 31st. The time is 6:03 p.m. Please note that the meeting will be recorded and made available on the town's website in accordance with state law. I'm going to start off with roll call. Catherine Stopper. Present. Steve Kirsch.
Present.
Dee Stalmack.
Present.
Nick Sentimentes.
Present.
Sam Spino. Present. Terry Rooney.
Present.
Joe Cobza.
Here.
Ron Banofsky.
Present.
Heidi Mead. Present. Frank Duchess.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, next up is our public participation. So before we get started, this is the public hearing on the 2026-2027 budget. And we're glad to have everyone here tonight. If you signed in when you arrived, I'm going to call on speakers in that order so everyone has a fair chance to speak. For those joining online, do we have people online? Good.
We do.
We will use the raise your hand feature and then we'll bring you in as we go. When you're recognized, please share your full name and address for the record. We ask that everyone's comments be directed to the board as a whole, and that you keep your remarks to about 3 minutes so everyone has an opportunity to participate. Just a reminder, we won't be answering questions during this hearing, but all comments will be part of public records. So with that, I'm going to open public participation. It's 6:04, and Heidi, if you would kindly hand that to me. Thank you very much. The first speaker tonight will be Dave Walker.
Well, it's nice to see you again. My name is Dave Walker, and I live at 86 Hillcrest in Upper Stepney. I'm here to underscore just a couple of points that I made when I came before you a couple of weeks ago. One is that even though I'm a senior citizen on a retirement income and my kids graduated from Monroe schools a couple decades ago, I still want to support public education. I want today's kids to have the same great experience that my kids had. I think I said last time that I want to be an old man in a town full of happy kids and thriving families. And that means I want Monroe to continue to be a town where people come to raise their family like I did, knowing that they can count on good government and good schools. Second, I think most of us understand that costs and taxes are going up no matter how we do it. And some people want to minimize that impact even at the expense of education, whether they want to speak publicly or not. I think we can assume that the people who don't want to speak publicly will still come to vote in the referendum. For myself, I'm ready to put my money where my mouth is and support a budget that does the best we can for education. I understand that our town charter directs you as the Board of Finance to review the budget and to quote, to make such revisions as it deems desirable, consistent with the welfare and resources of the town. I can only imagine that must be pretty challenging to parse that. I really do appreciate the gravity of the responsibility that you've accepted here. So I just want to ask you again to let the voters decide. And please don't accept proposed cuts to budget requests before it can get to referendum. If the requested budget does not win approval, then would be the right time to make the adjustments to a budget that more people can accept. And you'd be doing it at that time with the evidence of such a vote backing you up. But first, please give us a chance to approve a budget that provides the funds that our Board of Education and our superintendent think we need to keep our schools and programs strong. So again, I thank you for your consideration and for your service to the town.
Thank you. Thank you. Elizabeth Richards.
Good evening, Elizabeth Richer, 3 Founders Way. Nice to see you again. Massac ranked 23rd in the state when my husband and I moved to Monroe 13 years ago. Today it ranks 56th. I'm here tonight because I think this board deserves to understand what's behind that number and what's at stake. First, though, thank you all for your volunteer service to our town and for your full-time service to our town. My husband and I chose Monroe after rigorous research, weighing school quality heavily both for the education it would give our kids and for what it would mean for our long-term real estate investment. But I never went back and revisited that research after we moved in. I suspect many residents have made similar assumptions about stability. The data tells a different story. U.S. News currently ranks Massac 56th in the state, down from 35th in 2022, 33rd in 2019, and 23rd in 2013, the year we bought our home. Monroe has the highest student-to-teacher ratio in our DRG, 11-to-1 versus a peer average of 9.7. And we have close to the lowest per-pupil spending. How does a school fall 33 spots in 13 years? Over that same period, our special ed population doubled, and our multilingual learners grew from 2 to 17 at Massac alone. We have added fewer than 2 full-time positions to address both. We lost our literacy lab. Our math lab is unstaffed by a certified math teacher. Meager budget increases have simply not kept pace with the needs of our children. I do not believe this reflects a failure of our superintendent, principals, or teachers. The opposite is true. The educators in this district show up every day with remarkable dedication and creativity, and my sons have been genuinely well served by them. What the rankings reflect is rather the cumulative effect of lean budget after lean budget over the past decade. Any single year's movement in a ranking could be considered noise, but a drop from 23rd to 56th over 13 years is a trend, and it demands a response. We have a growing contingent of Monroe residents who are paying attention. In a short time, we've gathered over 1,000 signatures asking you to fully fund our schools. Current parents and longtime residents alike, many without children in the schools. We are engaged, and we are not going away. My kids will graduate in 2 years, but we plan to stay in town for another 30 if we can. We chose this town because it had excellent schools. We want it to still be known for excellent schools long after our kids have moved on. That future is worth investing in. Please restore the full Board of Ed budget that was requested by the Board of Ed. Thank you so much.
Jacqueline Bernarelli.
It's a long one, lots of vowels. Good evening. I'm here tonight because the proposed budget cuts are currently being framed as fiscal responsibility. But in reality, this is short-term thinking that puts our town at a long-term risk. In Monroe, our public schools are not just another line item. They're the foundation of our property values and our tax base. The quality of our schools matters to all taxpayers, not just families. Why? The reason is simple. Strong schools drive demand. Demand drives home values, and home values sustain our tax base. When you weaken the schools, you don't save money. You erode the financial stability of this town. Underfunding education sends a message to residents, to current and prospective business owners, and to potential home buyers that our town leadership is willing to compromise on one of the very things that makes Monroe a desirable place to live. And that's not the message we want to send. But I think we're missing a really key part of this conversation. The increased costs of education and healthcare were not unexpected. The resource requirements, predictable. While the Board of Education builds the budget, the town, led by our first selectman, has a responsibility to generate solutions for predictable cost increases before the budget even reaches this stage. Instead of being proactive, the first selectman has selected to slash our education budget and take a gamble with our schools, our property values, and the long-term stability of Monroe. If he's willing to take that gamble, he should be able to say that he's aggressively pursued every alternative funding solution first. Right now, it's not clear that that's happening. Instead, it is up to this board to protect our residents. I urge this board to fully fund the Board of Education requests. not as an act of generosity, but as an act of responsibility to the students, families, and community that you serve. Because if these budget cuts stand, then it should be very clear to every resident, business owner, and taxpayer here in Monroe, this is not something our town couldn't afford. It was something our leadership chose not to fund. Thank you.
Next is Kelly Middendorf. Did I get that right?
You did. Thank you.
I remembered.
I was to say, it's not, I daily Biddendorf. It's a rough transition. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelly Middendorf. I live at 108 Ripton Ridge, and I want to thank you all for the time tonight. For those of you that I didn't get the chance to speak with at our last meeting, my 6-year-old son is in this district. Like many children, he needs specific supports to succeed. The team in our schools has made a meaningful difference for him, and I am deeply grateful for the educators and staff who show up every single day for him. That's what makes this conversation matter to me. For families like mine, this is not theoretical. The decisions being discussed here directly shape our children's outcomes, and that's why we should be allowed to vote on the full recommendation from the superintendent. I also want to acknowledge the $1.2 million recommendation mattered. It shows that when this community speaks, decisions can move. And I want to be abundantly clear about what's critical here. Many of the positions and supports in this budget are tied to legally mandated services. These obligations do not change based on budget decisions. So the question now is whether or not this board is willing to knowingly create conditions that make those obligations harder to meet. Because when funding decisions constrain legally required services, the impact does not stay within our schools. It creates a record, it creates patterns, and it creates accountability. And if services are impacted, my focus will not be on the educators working under constraint. My focus will be on the funding decisions made here, the records behind those decisions, and how responsibility is assigned. Families are paying attention, families understand what's happening, and how to access that information and act if necessary. And that is simply the reality of an engaged and informed community. The latest deficit adjustment recommendation showed us that progress is possible. And tonight, the opportunity is to complete that work. We appreciate the recommendation to restore some of the original deficit. And now, I'm asking you to finish the job. Fully restore the remaining funds and ensure that my son and every student in this district receives the education and mandated support they are entitled to. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason.
Hello, everybody. Jason Maurer, 44 Stable Ridge Road. I am an elected member to the town council, but I appear before you tonight not in that official capacity, instead as a resident and taxpayer of the town of Monroe. I come asking two things. One, restore the full ask of the Board of Ed budget. And two, put a guiding question onto our referendum so that the townspeople can have a voice and speak as to whether they believe we are making the proper investment in our town. Because that's what it is. It's our town, all of ours. I'm a lifelong resident of the town of Monroe, over 40 years here. I went through the Monroe school systems. I gained many advantages because of my quality education here in Monroe. The same advantages that I believe should be available to every single student going forward. But this isn't just about education, and it isn't just about our students. It should not be education or town. It can and should be both. It should not be transportation or public safety. It can and should be both. It should not be students or seniors. It can and should be both. It shouldn't be short-term planning or long-term planning. It can and should be both. It shouldn't be looking at small line items or big line items. It can and should be both. It shouldn't be reform on the town level, the state level, or the federal level. It can and should be all of them. And it cannot be Republican or Democrat coming to the table with feasible solutions and willing to discuss all of these hard conversations. It can and must be both. The time for finger pointing is done. The time for accountability and action is now. So let's invest in our town. Let's restore the funds and pass senior tax relief. Let's form a long-term planning commission with members from council, finance, education, town hall, school employees, and townspeople that can look at the budget more than once a year, look at our strategic planning and our capital fund more than once per year, come up with solutions for long-term planning on how we deal with education and infrastructure and all of the various aspects that drive the costs in Monroe. And let's do it together. Let's put the funds back and give the people of Monroe a voice at referendum on whether or not we are willing to make this investment in our town. And another voice that same day with a guiding question, asking those who vote whether they think the proposed budget is too high or too low. Let's stop looking at whether it should be this or that. Let's do it all. Thank you.
Tolan?
Old Castle Drive. Thank you, First Selectman, for recommending to return the 1.2 of the $1.6 million you originally cut. I do think that is a step toward full restoration of the BOE budget. However, it is also a strategy used in the games being played by our local government. The cat and mouse car salesman model of give and take between the First Selectman and the Board of Finance is nothing but a distraction used against the public to lose sight and interest to the issues at hand. Admittedly, I was thrilled at the idea that we were only $403,230 away from full restoration, but then the dust of excitement abruptly crashed into reality. History has shown that this shell game is designed to fool time and time again, a sleight of hand magician's trick to divert the public attention into making them believe something happened that really didn't. If you, the Board of Finance, does not reinstate the 1.2 recommended by the First Selectman, then we will all know that that exactly is what it is. The petition circulating to fully reinstate the BOA budget has now over 1,000 signatures, and it continues to grow every day. Here are some numbers. I know how much everybody loves numbers. According to the World Population Review 2026, CT Data Haven, Census.gov, and Nielsberg Research, 16% of the 19,765 people residing in Monroe are ages 65 and up. That equates to approximately 3,000 people. 25% of the town's population is under the age of 18, roughly about 4,800 people. From those statistics alone, students currently or soon to be enrolled outnumber senior citizens by 1,800 people. To finish the pie chart, 55% of residents in town are ages 30 to 64, middle-aged, approximately 11,000 people. The median age of Monroe is 43, and I will be 43 in July. 43% of the households have kids under the age of 18. The rumor that there are more seniors in this town than those who currently or soon to be utilizing the schools is a farce. Perhaps 10 years ago, this notion held water, but from where we are standing today, it's just completely not true. The majority of the people in town are using the schools either as a student or a parent, and that's a fact. When local government invests and caters more to the town's smallest population, there is something foundationally wrong with that. It is known that the First Selectman is appointing, AKA picking, people across all town boards who will commit to cutting education. How can any decision or idea be unbiased when the governing bodies themselves have been corrupted? How completely unfair to bully people into corners, making it much more harder for them to stand up for what they believe in. Are we supposed to just throw our hands in the air and say, well, that's politics? What a cop-out. I urge the members of town boards to stand up for what you think is worth fighting for and to not bend to somebody else's will. Last March, the First Selectman requested an increase in income limits for seniors who qualify for property tax relief. On average, those increases are around $7,000 per household, allowing more seniors age 65 and up to receive these benefits. Town Council unanimously approved this amendment. Fast forward 1 year to earlier this month, yet another amendment was passed to increase each income bracket by $250. The first selectman is also working with planning and zoning to increase the threshold of senior housing that can be built in town by 250 units. As I have said before, I support the seniors and I happily pay towards the senior center, the bus, its programs, its employees, because I believe it's to be an important part of a healthy town. This is not pro-education versus anti-senior conversation. I believe the two, as Jason Maurer just said, can indeed have a symbiotic relationship. But if the Board of Finance believes its job is to manage the numbers before a public vote, then please excuse me when I say that you have been doing a less than adequate job. And when a campaign plays to the over-dramatized notions that some are having to choose bread over medicine, it makes me wonder what else is being exaggerated. Manipulating emotions can be viewed as psychological abuse, playing into fears, offering protection, capitalizing on the form of votes. It's not only morally wrong, but a huge gamble given the demographics I have provided. I can assure you that we will vote riding this momentum to the polls. Is that something that you would risk your job or your pension on? Thank you.
Is Will Hare?
Yeah, yeah. Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Will Hare of 114 Purdy Hill Road. I'm here to speak on behalf of restoring the budget as proposed. I've been a teacher since 2007 and have seen firsthand the effect of spending cuts on the quality of education. When I first started teaching, it was an inner city school in Phoenix, Arizona that spends roughly half what we do in Monroe per pupil. My class sizes were larger and I taught more classes each day than I do in Connecticut. This meant I was less able to provide timely, in-depth feedback to my students, spent less time working with each one, and developed less of a connection with them, which allowed me to not push them to their full capabilities. In addition, when class sizes increased, I also spent more time outside of class grading and preparing my current lessons, which cut into my ability to develop new activities, reflect on current ones, and plan for the diverse needs of the students that entered my classes. Once I came back to Connecticut, I spent 7 years teaching in Darien, then a year with Bethel, and finally the last year, 8 years in Trumbull Public Schools. The diversity in the socioeconomic makeup of each town/city, their support for education and academic growth in the towns and schools I have taught in showed me firsthand that funding matters. I know that Mr. Rooney has recommended restoring most of what had been proposed to be cut from Mr. Cobb's budget, but the remaining amount should be restored as well. Being the father of 3 girls who are either currently in the school system or will be soon, I want my kids to have the education I've seen in towns that continuously support and fully fund their education. Our placement in per pupil spending and academic performance should compel this board to strive for more by giving our teachers, paraprofessionals, and administrators what they need to support our kids. While I do have my own issues with the way our education system works in Monroe, I know that these cuts will not make those issues better, only worse. Teachers always find ways to help their students, but there comes a point where decisions have to be made on where to spend their time when class sizes increase. So let's find a way to give our teachers what they need to continue to provide a top quality education. Thank you.
Thank you. Lainey Turner.
Hi, Eleni Turner, 3 Sterling Place. I'm Eleni Turner. I'm a very intelligent, lifelong Monroe resident, and now a proud Monroe parent to 2 kids at Stepney and a toddler. 2 weeks ago, I spoke about data-driven decision-making related to proposed cuts to the BOE budget. I think it's nice that the first selectman recommended reinstatement of a good portion of the funds. Regardless, the BOE is still out just over $400,000 from Superintendent Cobb's initial number, and I do recognize that the first selectman isn't the only one responsible. It's disappointing that the majority party on our BOE voted to cut that first $250,000 without any kind of collaborative bipartisan discussions, and unfortunately, it's not surprising given our recent history. In 24-25, the BOE faced a reduction of $1.06 million, and in 25-26, it was even greater at $1.2 million. To echo the auditors, chief accounting officers, and general finance people who also spoke last time, why are we divesting from an asset that brings the most value to our community? I thought that being a fiscal conservative meant trimming whatever's perceived to be fat, not weakening the most valuable asset that we as a community have. There's a glaringly obvious pattern if we consider the businesses that have survived and, more importantly, thrived. Here's an example. My daughters attend the same dance studio that I did growing up, and that business has actually expanded to an additional 4th studio space. Many of my daughter's dance friends actually live in Trumbull or Shelton, and there's a restaurant right next door to the studio where parents and siblings either sit in between dance classes or they'll get takeout. Consider that there are at least 4 more dance studios in town: martial arts, karate, jiu-jitsu facilities, the Ole soccer facility down Victoria Drive, the brand new Monroe Ninja Academy off of Pepper Street. There are places like Blue Butterfly, an art studio that actually had to change sites, maybe no more than 2 years after initially opening, because they needed room to accommodate more business. Many of the places that I just described offer summer camp programs too. Have we noticed the pattern? If not, you definitely will with my next list. Goddard, Kinder Care, Building Blocks, Little Steps, Tiny Treasures, Honey Tree, Gingerbread, Step Away. Did I miss any? I don't know. Daycares and preschools that parents pay for their children to attend. These facilities have zero to do with our tax dollars. Another childcare franchise is actually coming soon to Victoria Drive called The Learning Experience. Clearly, the businesses that come to our town and the ones that really do stick don't just have options for families, they cater to young families. And our society is all about supply and demand, right? Around this time last year, members of the BOF had concerns about all taxpayers, including seniors on fixed incomes. This year, it's been said that seniors are forced to choose between paying for prescriptions or a loaf of bread. And I really think that that's such a despicable thing. It shouldn't even be a thing, if that's the case. Our senior center is a community resource that we do have. So I asked myself, could the money budgeted specifically for our seniors stretch creatively in any way? You know, the way that educators have forced to continually stretch themselves creatively with education budgets that are slashed year after year. I was really happy, like genuinely happy, to see that $7,000 is budgeted for holiday meals and special events. What gave me pause was finding $3,300 budgeted for coffee, creamers, and kitchen supplies. That's $63 per week. Now, my husband and I have 3 kids under 10. We work with other people's children for a living, and we work opposite schedules involving each of us to solo parent every single day. I promise you, we drink an ungodly amount of coffee, and we make all of it at home. We know how expensive it is. I'll spare you my math, but I did crunch some numbers. Is it realistic to anybody in the room that the senior center could be going through approximately 80 ounces of coffee grounds and 192 fluid ounces of creamer per week? Because that's what $63 a week in coffee and creamer looks like. I mean, it's more than my millennial Starbucks treat, right? Surely I can't be the only one wondering where that money is actually going. Like, are we actually spending it on coffee or is it going somewhere else? I genuinely don't know. That's for you guys to answer. I also noticed that our police department is receiving a 4.46% increase, hiring 2 new officers. What do our crime rates look like if our PD increase is 4.46 and the first selectman's initial recommendation for education was 2.68? You guessed it, guys. I found data, my favorite thing. In 23-24, there were 2,737 documented incidents outlined in police performance metrics. Let's exclude car-related incidents, so accidents, evading accidents, traffic stops. We have 316. Meaning 11.5% of incidents were potentially violent, drug-related, psychiatric, we'll just call them public safety incidents. In 24-25, the total was 3,330, only counting public safety, 331. So yeah, that is more than the previous year. But as a percentage, it's about 10%. So our proportion of public safety incidents decreases from 11.5 to 10, and our police department's budget increases? Where's the data? Like Katie said, I'm not at all saying that we shouldn't support seniors or police. I am saying that if we can afford coffee and cops, we can afford to continue to invest in our community's largest asset and just do better for our kids. It's clear that our school system brings people who will patronize our businesses and contribute to our town's economy. So why are we biting the hand that feeds us? It literally doesn't make sense. That's the biggest unanswered question that I still have from my meeting with Mr. Rooney last year. If our town doesn't have a deficit, or if we don't need the money allocated elsewhere to suit another need, why are we taking from schools of all places? Now, Mr. Rooney might not remember this, but he was pretty shocked to hear that I have 3 kids, because he actually told me to my face that before we'd met, he thought I was like 25. And now I understand that you made that kind of assumption because how could little old me possibly understand the big numbers and the big responsibility of running a town? I really hope that by now we've realized that that level of condescension and frankly, the blatant chauvinism doesn't do anything to silence me and many of the other mothers and parents in this room. If anything, I'm even more inspired and more empowered to continue to speak up about how the first selectman and certain individuals that like to hang out in his pocket have worked overtime to pull the wool over the eyes of the residents that pay taxes here. You don't have to agree with my politics, and you don't even have to like me as a person. My ego is really not that fragile. But you need to know that there are people like myself who will die on the hill of what's right for our kids every single time. And this time, it just so happens to be that it also makes fiscal sense too. So let's do the thing that makes sense and reinstate everything that Mr. Kotza asked for. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Russell Walker. I live at 23 Colonial Drive. And first, I want to just thank you for your service. I appreciate everything you do for our town. I wanted to come and speak on behalf of my children and our family, of course. This is a sentiment you've heard many times over, but just under 4 years ago, our family chose Monroe. We moved from the West Coast. And we chose it, of course, because it had a strong education system. And that's really the draw that brought our family here, and basically every other family that I've spoken to as well. All of our friends we've made through the school system and everyone else. And then the other neighbors that we have met, they were here because of the school system before, and their kids are grown. But I just wanted to come and speak on their behalf and emphasize how important the education system is to this town's success, and that it really is one of the main draws to families and to revenue. And it's something that has to be cherished and protected at all costs, in my opinion. So I just wanted to come and urge this board to reinstate the full amount, or at least put it to the decision of the townspeople for the full amount for that budget. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm sorry, this next one, Cress?
Chris.
All right, sorry about that.
Hi, my name is Chris Grummett. I live at 33 Hillside Lane. And yes, I am a Facebook keyboard jockey. There's been a lot of discussions online lately about the town and all of that, and I hope that you guys have been watching it and reading it, maybe not responding, but something wasn't done today, so I'm going to do it. And I hope you will answer as well. Who moved to Monroe for an education? Yeah. Raise your hand. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. I understand that there's a lot of money that's being spent in the town, and I understand that some of that has to come from taxes and even tax raises. It must be hard for all of you as officials, Oh, by the way, if I go over 3 minutes, just go. That you as officials have a hard job to do. Okay? But when everybody's moving here for one thing, and you're not investing any, you're not giving it more money, you're giving him, Mr. Cobb's a dollar, he's spending 80 cents on one thing, which he has to, and only has 20 cents, and then you go, hey, I got to take 50% of that back. Thank you. Find a new budget for that. Can't continue. Even the other pieces of the town can't continue with this. It doesn't bring anybody here. And I hope that some of that money didn't come from taking more hours from the library. We just can't do that. If we have to raise taxes, some people have to pay taxes. We have to figure it out. We can't just go with, well, this is what we have. No, we need to get more money. I mean, we have to figure something out. I know it's up to you guys to figure this out. I mean, when we vote on for a budget, their budget, we're not voting no because we want you to, take more money out of it. We're voting, we don't like the budget. We want more money going in. I mean, this has been the past couple of years. I think a couple of people have mentioned that as well. Can't keep doing that as a town. We have to figure something out. It can't stop with just the children. We have to have other services brought into here. I mean, other towns are doing it, but we're not investing in our main resource, the kids. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Ashley Arroyo.
I am Ashley Arroyo. I live at 40 Chadwick Court, and I guess I'm actually one of the unique people here. I'm actually a 19-year resident. I am not that old. So I actually moved here before I had kids. I wanted to improve my commute. But I am currently on my third location within Monroe because I found something I liked. I stayed for the education. And it's so disappointing to see what it's turning into. But, I guess beyond that, first off, thank you for taking the time to, number one, take public comments and concerns regarding this issue. I can't imagine it's easy to sit up there and be spoken to and not be able to react. And thank you for your time. What I'd like to focus on most with my comments is that this budget process is broken, and you can be the ones to fix it. What we see as the presented budget from our first selectman is his ideal scenario. It makes sure we have a fully funded municipal budget, whereas education funding lacks funding to even maintain its current employee headcount. As time has gone on and the first selectman heard the concerns of the parents, he's quickly changed his tune, asking you to reinstate a portion of the education budget he decided wasn't necessary. And this is why the process is broken, because just like every year, he makes you and the education budget the scapegoats for why taxes are so high and increasing every year. It's a sick little game, and frankly, we're tired of it. We're tired of playing. What we often see is that voting goes along party lines, and that's not what you signed up for. You chose to be individuals representing our town, to use your knowledge, your skills, and your common sense to make the best decision for all Monroe individuals. You are the superheroes at this moment. You get to ask the hard questions, just like you get to investigate and tear down or keep or increase the education budget. You get to do the same to the already approved municipal budget. You get to go line by line. You get to disseminate, analyze trends, look at over-padded accounts, and make real financial decisions and allocations in this budget for your townspeople, your neighbors. It is your due diligence that will create the best possible scenario for Monroe finances. So it is time for you to hopefully do the right thing, to realize that our kids' education is worth more than playing political games. I would kindly ask that you send a fully restored education budget to a vote so the people you represent can prove to you exactly how much they support our education. Thank you.
Ellen Bagnarella.
Alan Lavella, 25 School Street. So we heard a lot about Monroe's decline in like US News World Report rankings. Concern's real, but what's more concerning here is that we continue to talk around the issue instead of addressing what is actually driving it. The reality is this: education in 2026 is not what it was 10, 20, 30, or 40 years ago. It's radically different. Federal mandates like Individuals Disabilities Act, No Child Left Behind, require schools to identify and support every student who's not meeting grade level expectations. And that includes obviously academics, behavior, and social skills. That means schools must provide intensive systems of support in addition to also serving a rapidly growing special education population. At Monroe, we know right now that 20% of the students now receive special education services. That's not a marginal shift. That's a fundamental change in what our schools are required to do every single day. But our staffing and resources have not kept pace. So while expectations have increased, supports have decreased. It's not sustainable, and it shouldn't be surprising that outcomes and rankings reflect that reality. It's also important to be clear about how decisions are being shaped. This should not be about a political strategy or perspectives from people that are disconnected from the realities of today's classrooms. Public education is governed by legal mandates and guided by research-based practices, not by outdated assumptions by how schools used to operate in the past. Decisions of this magnitude should be informed by educators, data, and the actual needs of students, not by simplified narratives that fail to account for the complexity of how modern classrooms operate. Our educators have done everything possible to hold the line. MASIC has expanded advanced placement offerings and maintained rigor under increasingly difficult conditions. But let's be clear, they're compensating for systemic underinvestment. And there's a limit to that. Monroe is asking the schools to do more than ever before with fewer supports than they had a decade ago and expecting the same or better results. Like I said, a decade ago, we had probably about 12% students getting special education. Now we have 20%. We have more kids getting intensive resources now than they did 10 years ago. And we also need to help our English language learners. Like 10 years ago, I don't have the numbers, it was 30 maybe, but now it's about 100 English language learners. So what's been going on in Monroe isn't a strategy, it's a slow erosion. Families move to Monroe and pay a premium because they believe in the strength of this district. That reputation was built over time, but it can be lost much faster. If we continue on this path, the decline we're discussing today will not stabilize, it will accelerate. So the question is not whether we can afford to invest more in our schools. The question is whether we can afford not to.
Jordan.
or Jordan, 36 Oakwood Drive. So thanks for listening to me and everyone today and at the last meeting as well. Thank you also. I know you guys have gotten a lot of emails, and last time you said you do read them all. I know I've talked to multiple parents who have gotten responses, and we do appreciate that we're being listened to. It means a lot to be acknowledged. So there's a lot of people talking about the statistics. I'm not a statistics person. I am a connections person. That's what my entire career is based on, and that's what matters to me. I've worked in medicine, I've worked in schools, and what makes schools special are the people there. Between my husband and I think we have worked in 6 different school districts in Connecticut, might be undercounting. And administration can make or break a school. It can make or break a district. And Monroe is special. It was so special that my husband, who when he became a teacher said, I will never work in the town I live in, is now working in Monroe and loves it. We discovered that once our oldest entered school. He's at Monroe L. He is a rambunctious, high energy, wonderful child, but he's not an easy student to have in class. And so I hold my breath when I hear from the teacher. And when I hear that he's enthusiastic, he's participating, all of these positive things where I've been in classrooms supporting students with the exact same profile, where they're too much. The teachers don't have time to deal with them. They don't have time, and they just push them aside because they have too many kids in their class. They don't have enough support. My son doesn't have an IEP. He doesn't have all of those extra funded supports, and he doesn't need them. What he needs is a classroom where he feels safe, a classroom where he feels supported, a school that he is excited to go to every day because of the community that the administrators and the teachers are building. I worked in a nearby district where we lost teachers every single year to Monroe. And I didn't quite understand why. Yeah, Monroe pays a little bit better, but why was it so constant? And now that my kids are in school, I understand it. Because the teachers love teaching here, and that makes a difference for the kids. When you have a student who is a little bit more energetic, who is a little bit more difficult, and they get sad on Saturday because they can't go to school, you have a special school. My 4-year-old, when I go to pick up my 7-year-old from YMCA at Monroe L, he tells them every single time, I'll be in kindergarten next year. I get to come here next year. And he is so excited because of how his brother talks about it, because of when we get to go to events and he sees the community that was built. It matters. I've worked with newborns all the way through the elderly. I've worked K all the way through 12. And when kids don't feel safe and supported in school, they don't want to go. They don't do well. These extra programs that seem like, oh, what do we need freshman sports for? We need them to keep our kids in school. We need them because without it, the kid that's struggling just to get through their day, when you look at them and say, well, if you don't come to school, you don't get to play, that makes them show up. When they have the teacher that has an extra 5 minutes to connect with them, who's able to notice that they're a little off, ask them what's going on at home. That matters. And when we cut staff, when we don't support our teachers, when we don't support our schools, when we keep asking them to do more with less, they can't do that and they can't be there for the kids. I applied for Monroe. I didn't get a job here. Turned out better for me because I went a different direction with my career. But I left the school systems because I was tired of being told to do more than less. To do more with less. I was tired of not being able to do what I needed to really feel like I could fully support my students and really fully support the families. The fact that my husband wanted to work here, is now working here, and it feels fully supported. The fact that my children are fully supported and are excited to go to school means a lot. It's something that you don't see if you're not sending your kid to school. It's something you don't see if you're not in the classroom. And I don't think it should be underestimated how important these resources are and how important our teachers, our staff, and our school communities are. So I ask you to please refund the entire superintendent proposed budget and let the town decide if they think it's important.
Thank you.
Sarah Gisani, 23 Trailside Drive. Good evening, everyone. The current budget issue is not just a line item. It defines what we value and will inevitably shape the character of our town for years to come. We have heard about the implications on property values, the quality of our schools, the interconnected nature of this issue for everyone in Monroe, not just families with children. So I'm not going to belabor those points. What is imperative to emphasize is the very foundation of our society is based on the principles of democracy. We are strong when we listen to and trust the voices of the people. We should trust the Board of Education. We should trust that they are asking for a reasonable budget to carry out its primary purpose, which is to educate the next generation. We should listen to our friends and our neighbors who have had the courage to speak up about the conduct of the current administration when it comes to repeatedly cutting and then partially restoring the budget, similar, again, as what someone else had said, like a cat and mouse game. As I said before, you all, the first selectmen, the members of the board, have the choice to show the true nature of your leadership. You can listen to the people and strengthen our town. You can restore the full budget and let the taxpayers decide its merit at the ballot box. You can add the referendum question that asks the people if the budget is too low or too high. Or you can preemptively cut the budget, silence the voices of this town, and once again hide behind partisanship. The town is demanding to have a voice. Are you going to listen? Thank you.
Oriyama?
Hey everybody, Jeff Oriyama, 23 Trailside Drive. Son and I have 3 kids. We learn pretty quick about snack time. You don't ask kids what they want for snack. They're going to pick chocolate. Instead, I learned to give them choices. Do you want apple slices? Do you want baby carrots? Right? You keep the bad choices away from them because we know what's best, right? But you still engage that sense of independence, right? That freedom. You're scaffolding them. I bring this up not to give parenting advice, although if anybody could use a tip, there's one. I bring it up because that's kind of how I feel the budget process is going, and that's how it's gone the past few years since we moved to Monroe. It just feels like, hey, do you want the budget that inadequately funds our schools, or do you want a less adequate budget if you vote no at the ballot box? And that binary just isn't working. It feels like those two choices are being made for us. I think that we should present the voters a very clear, clean budget based on the recommendations of the experts that we've engaged at the Board of Education. I think we should have a chance at the ballot box to vote yes, no, and also an advisory question so that we can decide whether this investment is sufficient, whether we want to invest more, or whether the town thinks, no, we've invested enough, we need to go down. But limiting choices is not how to treat taxpayers. It's not how to treat this budget cycle. You hear how important this is to people. We need to be given a true choice to be able to voice what we need at the ballot box. Please consider doing that. It's going to be good for the town, it's going to be good for the process, and we're going to get a lot of really good inputs because of it. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. And mate.
Council. I'm Glenn Mate, 584 Moose Hill Road. I've been here 26 years, and I've also worked for the town of Monroe as a deputy fire marshal for a better part of 17. I also have a daughter in high school, so I greatly appreciate our educational budget. However, I've heard everybody come up here and talk about statistics, talk about numbers, and we know through statistics that if we move the markers, we can change the outcomes of everything. So if we were at 35 placed at one point, and now that we're 56, well, does that have something to do with COVID-19? Does it have something to do with the ever-changing world that we live in? Does it have something to do with our children changing, how they learn and what they learn? Now, we've looked at 50% of the budget. We're talking all about education. But as a past town employee, I can tell you through the 17 years of experience is that our infrastructure has not measured up to the amounts of increases that our educational budget has. And therefore, we are playing a game of catch up. So to balance the budget reasonably, to keep the town moving forward, education is not the sole driver of our town. And when we look at real estate sales, education is important. However, it's still, no one buys a house in the town of Monroe specifically just for education and say, well, it doesn't have any of the services that I need. It doesn't have any of the businesses that I need. It doesn't have any other things that we need to live as a human being or as a family. So we need to look at this overall. Now, as an investigator, I look at things through the eyes of investigation. And what I see is that we have been cheating on our municipal side for the better part of 10 years under a different administration. This administration is trying to recuperate and stabilize our infrastructure and our municipal side so we can start to live at a happy medium. Now, is it possible that we just take a year and not give a full educational budget and maybe next year we try to recoup, to try to balance things out, to equate things out so everybody in town can live at the best possible way? So I present that to you to kind of look at it that way. Is it that we take a year to recuperate, to balance, so we can keep the necessary people in town, in municipal places that need to be there, because many people have left our town to go to work for other places. And so everybody knows, as a deputy fire marshal, I was making $15.50 an hour. That means getting up in the middle of the night to go out and investigate, to go out and do this, to be on call all the time, to do all of that work. The town of Trumbull was paying $23.50. The town of Newtown was paying $26.50. I could have gone elsewhere, but because I felt so dedicated to the town that I live in and that I'm a worthy part of the community, that I stuck to staying here in Monroe. A lot of people are doing that, but because it's becoming so difficult and our municipal side is so low on the pay scale side, they're leaving. We've got great people that are leaving, and we can't hold on to them. So if our infrastructure starts to fall apart, our educational system is not going to drive how we live and how we function. Whether we need building permits, whether we need a 911 response call, whether we need Department of Public Works to plow our roads and get our storm drains cleared, we need to keep up with everything. So I'm sorry to rain on everybody's parade about education, but I'm coming in with the voice of reason. Kids are important. Kids are absolutely important. And I said, I have a child that is going to be graduating in 2027. So that's important too. But we need to sometimes look at the whole thing, not just education. If we can't afford something in our household budget, Do we throw it on a credit card and throw it on a credit card and throw it on a credit card and keep paying more and keep paying more? And then what happens when we have to pay the bill? So let's find a reasonable answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Rodney Zimis.
My name is Rodney Zimmers. I live on 24 Cobbler's Hill Court, and I have two daughters who are in school, and there's their principal, Miss Ansis. Hi. She calls me sometimes. I know it's her. I recognize her voice. Sometimes I gotta throw a curveball and it's Miss Nellie. I joke about it because it's so cool that like the principal knows my kids, like, and she cares and she calls and the vice principal does. And I honestly, I do believe that I want to restore the budget as much as everybody else, but like the budget seems a little light because the kids are what matter the most to me. I did move here only because of the schools. And I do agree that that pay sounds awfully low. And I fully support a raise for that as well. I just feel like there has to be creative solutions to things, and people have to have a voice in that. And my voice very much is for my kids, because frankly, that's the only reason I live here. I pay a ton in taxes, and I'm lucky enough to afford that. And I do that because that's a choice I made when I moved here. I moved here because I wanted a town with high taxes because I knew where that money went. It went to my kids and their education, and not just my kids. Everybody else's kids too. And I'm cool with that. I want to do whatever I can to support the kids, the schools, the community, all those things. I show up to every community function in town. I cook at breakfasts, I volunteer at the parks and recs, whatever it looks like, I'm here to help. And like that's what I think a lot of people in this town are. I think that's what makes this town so cool, is how people show up for the community. And our kids don't get a voice in that. And last, I guess 2 weeks ago, whenever we did this, there was those two kids from high school who spoke. They're the only ones we should listen to because it impacts them. And other kids, not me. I'm just going to keep paying taxes. I don't really have a choice. But my kids also don't have a choice, and they deserve the absolute best. And that's why people move here, is because they want the best for their kids. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen.
I'm Colleen Lucas. I live at 31 East Maiden Lane. I have a child in the third grade at Fawn Hollow, and I also work at Monroe as a paraeducator. I know that school is so much more than information being relayed to children. It's a greater part of their lives from kindergarten through 12th grade. But I recently saw someone who I think was Mr. Mate online discussing an online discussion asking if the budget cuts would affect the students directly. Questions such as, will your child have to work harder to comprehend what they are being taught? Will your child lose the opportunity to learn the state-mandated curriculum? Are we cutting back the quality of the education that has been consistently provided? And are your child's grades a reflection of the budget cuts? These questions caught my attention, and I believe the answer is yes to all of the above. Year after year of not meeting the needs of the school district means increasing class sizes and reducing staff, including support staff, specialists, and special education resources. So with higher teacher-to-student ratios, teachers cannot give the necessary time and attention that every student needs to comprehend the curriculum. When the student-to-teacher ratio is high, it affects an average student's engagement and achievement, which ultimately affects grades, test scores,
and school rankings. Additionally, cuts mean not meeting the needs of special education students, gifted and talented students, sports teams, art, music, and drama programs, world languages, and technology, which all contribute to a well-rounded education and a greater aptitude and likelihood to succeed in the world, including opportunities for better colleges and jobs. There is no question that there is a correlation between better funded schools and better test scores, better rankings, more opportunities, safer environments, and a more desirable place to live. Continuously cutting while the district is growing will never be the right decision. There are too many ramifications. And if you had children benefit from the Monroe school system and no longer have school-aged kids, just know that we are only trying to ensure that we maintain the excellence of Monroe schools so our kids can get the same great education that yours did. Tax programs are used to reduce the impact on seniors on a fixed budget. The town budget can be reallocated. Corporate revenue can be increased in town, but letting schools slip doesn't help anyone. What makes a school district good? What makes your property values stay high? Proper funding and a plan that's looking toward the future. Thank you.
Monticello? Yeah. Monticello, thank you.
I don't usually do public speaking. My teaching days are far behind me. I have my bachelor's in psychology, my master's in teaching, and if I could teach in any district, I would have chosen to teach here in Monroe. My husband and I are the people who only chose Monroe because of its schools. I, at the time, was working in Greenwich, and we wanted Monroe schools above Greenwich, above Stamford, where I grew up, Norwalk, where my husband grew up. I also just want to point out with my undergrad in psych, I'm very interested in body language. First Selectman, I'm the 38th person. I would like you to make eye contact with me because this entire time, you have not. That I'm giving all of you making eye contact, even though it's something uncomfortable for me. Thank you. I want to begin by just saying thank you for recommending the 1.2 be put back. I also feel that it should never have been cut. That's my personal opinion, but when the Board of Ed comes to you with pretty much bare bones recommendation, knowing that they're the experts, right? Because if I am being a leader, then I know that I don't know everything, but I rely on the people underneath me to be the experts that I can count on to give me the information I need to make an informed decision. That's what leaders do. So 1.2 is great and thank you, but that's just not enough. 1.6, quite honestly, also not enough. It's bare minimum. With my child on a 504 plan, I can say that the paras in her school, even though she doesn't have a one-to-one, are some of the best, most kind, most invested people, though their salary is not where it should be as part of the education system. So the paras in our school system, the teachers in our school system, all of the support staff who made my child, who didn't have a 504 plan until second grade, and who helped her get through wanting to actually go to school when it was really challenging for her to keep control of her body and keep focus in kindergarten and first grade and half of second grade. Those are the people that we want to keep here. And we can't keep those people wanting to be here if we are not, as a town, showing them that we value what they bring to our kids and our town. Let me get back to my notes. For many years now, the Board of Education budget has been reduced through cuts during the budget process. Over time, those reductions accumulate. When budgets consistently fall short of what educators say, again, the experts, is necessary, the effects eventually begin to show. Now, all the statistics that everybody else said before me, that's what we're seeing. It's also important to recognize that many of the rising costs that we're facing the Monroe Public Schools are outside of the direct control of the Board of Ed. There's state mandates, there's transportation costs, healthcare, on and on, as you all know. So restoring funding helps ensure that these obligations are met and that a viable curriculum is still available for our kids, that we don't have to resort to options like cutting staff where we need them and our kids need them. It's incredibly important to me also, just another personal note, that my daughter is at Stepney and we don't have an assistant principal. We have almost 500 students. There's no assistant principal, and we're one of 2 schools, I believe, in the state, in towns like ours, where there's that many kids in a school and no assistant principal. I don't understand why that's even a question. When you get to a certain number of kids, it should just be an automatic. We need that. We need that continued support, and our principal does, and she deserves that so that she can do her job and not the job of 10 other people. End of my rant. Families chose to move here in large part because of the strength of the schools. The reputation is one of Monroe's greatest assets. I did not even know about Monroe as a town growing up in Stamford until our IT guy said that's where he lived and he chose there for the schools. And we moved here, and we didn't have kids yet, but we wanted to move here for the schools. Families now are considering where to live and comparing our other neighboring communities, and they're paying attention to whether a town's budget is reflecting a real commitment to education, because families have choices. I would also like to respectfully ask you to consider improving the clarity of the referendum question. I agree that just saying yes or no doesn't really give us a clear understanding of why, and you can't really make an informed decision going forward if you don't understand the why, the root cause of someone's decision. I think that makes sense for everybody. Leadership is not about avoiding difficult choices. It's about confronting them thoughtfully and relying on the expertise of educators, administrators, and community members to make informed decisions that benefit the town as a whole. Tonight, you all have the opportunity to demonstrate that kind of leadership. I respectfully urge you, as the Board of Finance, to restore the remaining funding needed so that the Board of Education's budget minimum requirements are fully supported, but not just this year. And I don't agree with taking a year off. That's ridiculous, in my opinion. There has to be a way, although I do agree with you that we need better infrastructure in the town. It shouldn't be, as someone else said, this or that. There has to be a way to come together and make informed decisions that benefit everybody. So not just this year, please don't put our education, my kid, on the chopping block again next year. The minimum requirement should just always be funded. It's the extras where we should be thinking about, do we really need to spend this? Decisions made in this room tonight will shape not only next year's budget, but the strength of our schools and our community here in Monroe for years to come. Thank you all for your time and for your service to our.
Thank you. Did you get her address?
Yes.
You did.
Okay. Okay, is there anyone else in the room that would like to participate? State your name and address.
Again, Tiffany Locanti, 334 Moose Hill Road. I am a Monroe taxpayer. I am a first grade teacher at Fawn Hollow, and my child is also in first grade at Fawn Hollow. I honestly did prepare a lot, and then I said, I've been up here a lot. I have shared data about the fact that our per pupil expenditure is in the bottom quarter of every other district in our DIRG, while our student-teacher ratio is the highest of anyone in our DIRG. Subsequently, we are the only district in DIRG B who over the last 3 years has shown negative growth in both math and ELA, while every other district has improvement in at least one area. I shared that my husband and I dreamt of a life in Monroe and scrimped and saved for over a decade before we were able to purchase a home here because it was the one place we wanted to be because of the public school system. I shared that we left Stratford for a reason and that every day I'm finding more and more families, more and more of my child's classmates, more and more students who came from Stratford. In 2011, when I was looking for my first teaching job, the Stratford Public Schools had this exact same conversation, but it wasn't open to the public. They could voice their opinion, but they didn't get a vote because that's not how they're set up. Cuts were made to the Board of Ed request. It was still an increase, yes, but those were mandated increases like salaries and insurance, all of the things we're talking about right now. In 2010, 2011, roughly 50% of students in Stratford, I know that number is lower than us, were proficient in ELA, about 43% in math. Those cuts have happened almost every single year for the last 14, 15 years. And Stratford Public Schools today, we're celebrating that they're at 29% proficiency. This is what happens when we do not value our schools. This is why there's an exodus out of Stratford. Plain and simple. I've seen a lot of discourse online about how we need to be creative. We must be wasting money. We got to find where to trim the fat. Let's look line by line. I teach first grade on a team of 5 teachers. In August, when we arrived, we were handed a table full of supplies to split up. There were 3 packages of construction paper to be shared amongst 5 teachers with 120 sheets of paper in each. I'm not saying that we should not be looking at how we can be creative in a lot of ways. I think we should be doing that on both sides of the budget. That is one very small example, but this is our reality. We have incredible administrators in this district. This is the 5th school district I've worked in the state of Connecticut in some capacity. I have never felt so supported by administration at every single level. Kim Nelly, our assistant principal, comes in, has covered my class so that I can go contact a parent before their child gets off the bus. He's covering them during dismissal. I've seen the shell game that Ms. Zancis has to complete every morning to handle coverages. Honestly, to handle where to put substitutes. Oh, well, this person is our building substitute. Let's make sure that they're covering a teacher so that we're not paying the paraprofessional extra to cover that classroom. They have the budget at the forefront of their mind every moment of the day with every decision they make. This team knows what they're doing. And all I am asking is that we trust them, restore the original request for 1.6 plus the 250,000 that the superintendent originally asked for. That was cut in committee before it got to the first selectman. And add the advisory question. Give us a chance to speak up. Give us a chance to say, this is what we want and this is why. That's all I'm asking. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you for allowing us to sort of talk at you for a very long time.
Good evening, Ray Renda, 25 Sunset Hill Drive. I want to echo what Ms. Locanti said. What a wonderful school district. I worked in education for 30 years and I worked in 3 districts. And I gotta say, This is probably one of the finest teams I've ever seen, from the calls, from the teachers, from the principals. They are extremely collaborative and they work on all the problems that may be coming up at different times, and they're always closing the loop. Amazing. I'm proud to be part of this community. And I just want to let you know that when we prepare a budget in education, we only ask for what we need. We don't ask for more than what we need. We ask for the appropriate funding to fund our programs so our students have the best opportunity. And with that being said, I worked in a school district where they said the motto years ago was, let's do more with less. Guess what? You can't do more with less. You could do more with more. And you know what happened in that district? Got rid of the teachers. We got rid of the reading specialists. We got rid of the librarians. We went from a blue ribbon school to a school that never seen a blue ribbon school again. So I'm here to tell you, I've had that experience and I've seen it firsthand. And I understand the gentleman over here, he's right, about the pay and, putting together a plan. We need to put together not a 5-year plan that's mandated, a 10-year plan. Look at the 5-year mandated plan and let's come together with a 10-year plan. So you look at the big ticket items down the road. This is what we need to do. Please, let's restore our budget for our community, our homes. We're going to give ourselves self-inflicted wounds by keep doing what we're doing. It's terrible. Please. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Susanna Carlins. This is Henry. And we live at 14 Wells Road. I've been teaching for 27 years. I've lived here for 14 years. My husband lived all his 45 years here. And these can't just be words up on a wall. It has to mean something. What do we value? We're tired. We left the dinner table to come here tonight, didn't we? And I've been very patient, and I've been listening. And there's some really well-spoken people here. I don't have any data, but I'm a mom and an educator, and listen to the Board of Education, please, and listen to the people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can. And then we'll go.
Hi, Marie Blake, 359 Wheeler Road. First of all, thank you for your time, for serving on the board. We really appreciate it. I know you have a very difficult job ahead of you. I lived in Monroe almost my entire life. I graduated from Massac in 1981. I'm not a numbers person, so I had to Google search the age for senior citizen. It's between 60 and 65, little older than 60, not quite 65. I am retired from Monroe as a teacher, 36 years here teaching English. So like Monroe's son, I had him in class. And my husband and I are empty nesters. Our children went through Massac, graduated from UConn. We have a pharmacist and an engineer. Thankful to all that Massac had to offer our children. They excelled at UConn. My son had so many UConn credit classes that he was able to get a minor as well as his major in his 4 years. So as an empty nester, I want to say that your children are our children. We're a community and we support education. We implore that you reinstate all the funds and leave it up to the townspeople to vote on the budget. We have a changing world, as Mr. Mate said. And unfortunately, as a school system, we are not keeping up with the changes in our world. In my humble opinion, every one of our schools should have an assistant principal. Our assistant principals don't only take care of our students, but they manage the staff as well. All the teachers, all the custodians, the nurses, a medical emergency, whatever the case is. There is strength in numbers. There is strength in having a partner, a shared responsibility. So we are always playing catch up. We never get the assistant principals that we're looking for. We never get the new programs because we're always cutting. We're stepping back rather than moving forward. Monroe deserves better. I say leave it up to the voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben Gershel, 42 Squire Road. Been here since 2002. Moved from Norwalk. Always grew up in the city. Grew up in Stamford first and Norwalk, and then moved here. We love this town. When we moved here, we just loved. I said to my wife the first night, "Did you hear that?" She said, "No." I said, "Exactly." It's quiet. Love that about this town. It's just nice and quiet. So after we moved here in 2003, my wife's cousin moved here on Swenson, and they brought their 3 kids from Stratford. And then my wife's mother moved here. She moved to Hidden Knolls. And then my wife's aunt moved here. She moved to High Meadows. And then my wife's other aunt, she moved here. She moved to High Meadows, and I just moved my mother from Florida to Legacy Lane. That's a great development for this community, and we need actually more developments like that. It's 55 and up. They probably pay on average about $15,000 a house, so that's like over 300,000. No kids, so it's a positive. We definitely could use more of those, and there's definitely seniors that want to live here. My mom loves nature, so there's plenty of nature here. So in 2002, the streets were always swept. Never, every year. Like, there's a street sweeper. I called it the Zamboni. I like ice hockey, but it was just always swept good, and the tree limbs were cut back nicely, and you didn't have to put a work order in for that. It just naturally happened every year. And Chalk Hill was open, and 5th and 6th grade were there, and we had a lot more students then too. But, over the years, street sweeper, I never see it anymore. And this street, it's bad. I have to call in every year to DPW to cut back the brush on Camelot because it's sticking 5 to 6 feet out, and it's a blind spot, and you could actually get hit. And I walk my dog, and if I ever say, "Wait to you," I have a big black German Shepherd. He's a PIA, believe me. So it is municipal. It is education. And I feel like we need to spend more money. When we first moved here in 2002, my taxes were $5,500. They went up 10% the next year in 2003, 9% in 2004, 12% in 2005. 5% in 2006, 8% in 2007, 5% in 2008, 4%, and so on. There's a few years since then, it has actually gone down. 1 year it went up after it went down, so that's like a net of maybe 5%. But in the past 5 years, COVID, it went up 5%, then 2%, then 1%, then 1%, then 1%. And I'm just generalizing. This could have been like 1.4, 1.9. And then last year, because of the reassessment, it went up 7%. But our values back in 2002 of our homes were going up here as well. Every year, if you remember, before the Great Recession, the home values were just going up. I was like, wow, this is great. And now they've done it again, but our taxes aren't going up. But why aren't our taxes going up? Well, I realize that 5% of a bigger number is a bigger number. But that's the world we're all living in. Everything costs more money. We can't help it. They can't help it. Mr. Rooney can't help it. The municipal side needs theirs too. There's not enough to go around for the whole town. This town is so great. I mean, farmers markets, apple festivals, strawberry festivals. When the town needs a playground, the town builds a playground. this town can do everything. If you had to solve the 400,000 right now, ask the 2,000 households that have kids to pony up $200, done, guaranteed. 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 There's an email out tonight for Massive. They're giving bricks, or donating bricks with your name out for the scoreboard. We're definitely going to do it. We'll probably do maybe 2 even. I played the Powerball when it was at $2 billion. And I said, if I win, 90% of it's going to go to this town. Because a man who has too much money, it's all for show. You don't need it. And this town needs it. We can't do it with tax increases of 1%, 2%, or 3% consistently year after year. Please reinstate the full budget, and let's see if we can do more.
Megan Bridgman, 17 Braylock Way. As someone who works in finance, is a chief accounting officer for a multi-billion-dollar global company who builds budgets, reviews budgets, analyzes budgets, my whole job is data. My whole job is math. I understand the job is hard, and I understand it takes a lot of work and a lot of iteration. We're still doing it for the 2025 budget at my organization. But I'm not here to talk to you about the numbers. Everybody else has spoken about the numbers. What I'm coming to speak to you is, I did move here for the schools, as did pretty much everybody else in this room, most likely has moved here for the schools. I do research, I look at data, and when I was looking in 2018 where I was going to move with my family, I looked at the data starting with the schools. I guarantee you there are families out there today looking at the data and deciding where they're going to move. Guarantee you, I would not have made that decision to be here today, looking at the data today. There are families out there going to choose Newtown, Trumbull, neighboring towns that are investing. Scores are going up, not down. And I implore you guys to restore the budget, look at the data, think long-term. Your kids are going to graduate and they are not coming back. The families that are moving here today, they're not going to come here for the schools. And is that really what we want? I think as a town that's been built from a number of people you've heard speak, move here for the schools, those same families like us are not going to make that same choice tomorrow based on the decisions being made now in the last few years. So as you make your decision where you want to invest and how you want to use the town's money, I implore you to think 5, 10 years from now. Do you want people to continue to move here? Do you want to be known for the schools? If the answer is yes, then you must restore the full budget. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Zurich. I live at 228 Webb Circle. As always, thank you to Mr. Rooney and to the board for the opportunity to speak this evening. With all due respect to the deputy fire investigator, this is not an either-or situation with respect to funding education or funding the municipality. The exact same argument I'm about to present here works just the same for the municipality side. I can see that you clearly care about this town in the same way that everybody else in this room does. And I hope that what I'm about to say tonight will convince both the deputy fire investigator as well as the Board of Finance that we do have the funds available to support this town, education and municipality alike. We are not adversaries, we're allies. At the last Board of Finance meeting, I suggested using some of the proposed $2.7 million in taxpayer refunds to close the gap in the superintendent's requested budget and the first selectman's proposed education budget. At that meeting, the first selectman said in his letter to the board that a lack of state funding adjustments hit us harder than anticipated. Now, since that last meeting, Governor Lamont has proposed a $500 million rebate program in his next budget. Legislators want to divert about $150 to $170 million from that refund into local schools. The first selectman is right to be frustrated with this state administration. They are also underfunding our schools and are proposing well over the amount needed to do so as taxpayer rebates instead. The fact is, there is obviously enough money in the state budget to fund our schools, just not enough appetite. That brings us back here. In the first selectman's revised budget, he proposes $2.7 million in taxpayer refunds when $400,000 could be used to fully meet the superintendent's budget. We could fully fund our schools and still refund $2.3 million if we are so inclined. And so, like with the state, the fact is there is obviously enough money in Monroe's budget to fund our schools, just not enough appetite. I want to reiterate, the first selectman is right to be frustrated with the state for how education funding dollars are deprioritized against taxpayer refunds. Unfortunately, his proposed budget does the same thing. I encourage everyone here, including Mr. Rooney and the Board of Finance, to contact our state representatives and senators, as well as the governor, to advocate for greater state funding of education. But let's not lose sight of what we, the town of Monroe, can do right now. We are fortunate to have enough funds such that we can even consider a taxpayer refund. We are fortunate that we can fully fund our schools if we are so inclined. We can be an example for this state in enacting a budget that prioritizes both our present and our future. And it's very simple because the money is there. There's another $2.3 million that we are currently slated to give away rather than support those municipal workers or any other underfunded areas. There is enough money. We just need the will to use it. I implore the first selectman and this board to fully fund our schools by reducing the taxpayer refund and examine where else in the budget we could benefit from those taxpayer refunds, like our municipal workers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room?
Mike Rubin, 51 Longview. Several of you have heard me speak several times in front of you. I'm going to keep this very short and very sweet. You have a difficult job. Your job is to ask the hard questions. Our job is to help support you. We understand that. Don't hurt our children. Give us a voice. Let us help you. Put the referendum question in. Restore the full budget. Go through the full budget, top to bottom. We shouldn't be cutting our plows. We shouldn't be worrying about we have potholes the size of Mongolia in town. But we also need to support our children and give them a diversity that makes them recruitable, getting good positions, getting into good colleges, coming back with their families. I would ask that the board look, especially for all of these deductions and issues, look at some of our past decisions. Look at the cost we're paying for St. Jude's to refurbish it and what is its anticipated value to the town in terms of revenue. Is that something we can look at? Is that something we can stretch out? If we can save $100,000 there, that's $100,000 that we are now closer to funding everyone in town. Not just the schools, not just the municipal, but getting the things that need to be done. The playground was raised. Our playground was in desperate need of being redone. The town came together and raised the money and built a playground. So that money could then be spent by the town to do things like fix our roads, to fund our schools, to keep our teachers, the professional. I have seen every administrator here tonight from our schools. It is a Tuesday at 8 o'clock. They've been in school all day dealing with our kids. And trust me, I know my kids. I feel bad for them. And yet they're here. They're here to listen. You know, they're here because they know it's important. We have municipal workers coming in after hours to come and talk because it's important. Fund us. We shouldn't even have an initial discussion of cuts. The recommendations are there from the experts. Let's put it to the town. That's what the referendum edits should be for. Thank you.
All right, Matt Jordan, 36 Oakwood Drive. I promised myself two things. One, that I wasn't going to work for Monroe Public Schools. I would never work in the town that I lived in. And two, that I wasn't going to get up here and speak tonight. But given that I broke the first one, the second one seemed easy enough to follow. My wife and I moved here for the schools. We did. We love everything about the town, but we moved here because of the schools. And I always said, I'm going to work in schools, but it's going to be someplace else so that I could have that separation. I could live one place and love that and work another and love that. What I saw when I moved to Monroe was a place that was different, a place that was special, a place that cared more deeply about its students, its educators, its staff, and its schools than any place I had been before. I left a job that I had been at for 8 years in the middle of the year for the chance to work in this district. For a job I might not have next year. Stepney is a special place. I love every minute I have been there. I have been made to feel more welcome by parents in this room whose kids I teach, by the staff, by the students, by this town. When I went to get fingerprinted at the police station right here, the kindness that was shown to me, that people were excited that somebody who lives in town would want to work there. This is where I want to be. This is where I want my kids to be. This is it. We can, as many people have said, fund the things we need to in this town. You have an awesome responsibility. I hope you use it to trust the people who got you up there to make the right decision for the town going forward. Thank you.
That might be the last one. I hope so, for everybody's sake. My name is Jeremy Hittenmark. I am at 24 Northwood Road. I happen to be in Monroe and stay in Monroe just because that's how life landed me. I came from New York City. The reason that I argue with my wife pleasantly to stay is because of the school system. Thanks, I appreciate it. I actually had no interest in becoming an educator. It was something that everybody in my family did. And it was in becoming a sub in the Monroe Public Schools that I started this journey of becoming an educator, working in Bridgeport, working in Norwalk, going to Newtown for like a hot minute. And I stay in it. And I care about it a whole lot. And that started 12 years ago by accident. The educators that are here, the administration that is here, work so hard. So for the 6 of you with name tags that have been paying attention the whole time, I really appreciate you listening to everybody who has been hassling you and giving eye contact to hear the people here the whole time. But when I go home and whether it's Ms. Casanelli who's calling me about an issue that we've been kind of dealing with for a couple months at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, she's been working that whole time and probably has 10 more calls to make. Or Ms. Fenton, when my son was having some questionable life decisions in kindergarten. My kids, we go to different events in Newtown and around town. We go with friends that my daughter made friends at Monroe L, and they're singing the Monroe L song. I think it's corny, but they make it into a whole production. But that is the power of what the administrators at our schools do. So whether it's kind of inspiring the next generation of educators, whether it's keeping our kids actually loving the process of going to school when being a teacher is so hard. As an educator, I've gotten to see the difference between what it was 12 years ago and why I was like, oh my gosh, I could totally see myself doing this, to being where I am now and going, I don't know, because of what it is like every day. What $1 million did 10 years ago does half of that now. What we're asking for in the $1.6 million deficit, whatever they came up with, that the Board of Ed to come up with that, that's already going to get us not as far as we hoped, because everything costs more in just a couple of months. So for every kid and parent and educator and future educator, please, as people have said, listen to the experts, add those questions to the referendum, reinstate the money, because our kids need more. They don't need more kids in their classrooms. They need more resources. They need assistant principals that step in. We've gone through a roller coaster. Let's close down Monroe L. Let's close down STEM. Let's close down. Our kids need stability, and they need hope that they are going to be something in the future, and that the adults that are in charge of making decisions care enough to invest in their future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Chrissy Martinez, 79 Old Castle Drive. I was not going to speak tonight, but I changed my mind, so I have no data for you. I have no numbers. I just have a story. My story is a little bit different than everyone in the room. I did not move here for the school system. Yes. I did live here, though, since I was born. And we've been talking about the school budget since I remember being old enough to vote at 18, which was a really long time ago, but not as long as it was for Mr. Kappa. And not as long as it was for Mr. Rooney either. Sorry, I'm calling out your ages, guys. But it's getting old. Like, this is the Monroe story. And I didn't want to come up here because I'm so cognizant of this being a political thing, and this is not a political thing. I grew up here. I graduated from Massac High School. I did leave Monroe because it was boring and there was nothing to do here, and I was really cool at the time. And then I had kids, and I brought my kids back, as so many people here did. Like, how many of our administrators, though, do you know, grew up in this town, that now came back to dedicate their lives to our kids? Basically 90% of them, I think. That is, I'm making that number up. But then if we looked at how many of our teachers did the same, and then how many of our classmates brought their children back here, that speaks to what Monroe is. And we're so lucky that Mr. Kobza stays, because that is not the case in education anymore. I think the average is around 18 months for superintendents, because it's just not sustainable. But the people here in this town love this town, and they love this community. And while I agree with the person that spoke that COVID had a huge impact on our kids, it had an impact on kids in every school and every community across the globe. I won't even say across the United States, across the globe. So we can't keep using that as an excuse, because that has been an impact on all of our communities. So I ask you to reinstate the full budget that Joe had asked for, because as you all know, I'm on the Board of Education. If you don't know that, you know that now. And I will continue to advocate for our students, but not just because I'm on the Board of Education, but I'm also a lifelong administrator in special education. I am a special ed teacher by trade. And it does matter. I mean, we're giving a message to our kids that that's not important. And if we wait a year, then we have to make up 2 years in the next year. And that's not something that we're able to do. And I just wanted to mention, when something gets taken away because of the budget, it just doesn't ever come back. And so for those of us that grew up in Monroe and went to Massac, you probably remember at one point in time, we had auto shop And for students that weren't going to go to college, they were able to take classes on becoming an auto mechanic later on because those trades were so important. And that's still important. But now they have to travel a half an hour to go to a technical high school and leave their community and leave their friends because we can't offer that anymore. We had an electrical shop so that students that wanted to become electricians could become electricians right at Massac High School by getting that path to the trades. We don't offer that anymore because somewhere along the line, it got cut and it never came back. And in order to bring that back, financially, we just can't do it. So let's not keep doing that. Let's move us forward. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stacy Hittenbark, 24 Northwood Road. I first wanted to say thank you to everyone who is here tonight and has taken the last 2 hours to listen to all of us speak. I am going to echo a little bit of what my husband said. We are unique that we did not come to Monroe for its education system. We ended up here through happenstance and honestly, a convenient housing situation. But I grew up next door in Newtown. I had an amazing upbringing in Newtown. And if I'm being honest with you, my goal was always to go back to Newtown. All along, kept saying, I'm going back to Newtown. I'm going back to Newtown. I'm going back to Newtown. And our experience here in the schools has changed my mind on that. We now have a 4th and a 6th grader, and they've both had amazing experiences here in the Monroe Public Schools. So much so that a couple months ago, there was a new video game coming out, and my husband said, tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up our son, and I'm going to tell him we're not going to school, we're going to play hooky, and we're going to stay home. He wakes up my son the next morning, and my son said, what? I'm not doing that. I'm going to school. And he went to school because he did not want to stay home and play a video game. My daughter this year is a 6th grader at STEM. So cutting this budget or waiting a year is going to have significant impacts on her. We had a beautiful experience at Monroe L, and I was scared for her to go to middle school. And she's just had a great experience there so far, a great transition. But if something happens to this budget, next year she will transition again. And then next year she will transition again. 3 schools in 3 years. And that's not fair to her. So I hear the municipal part of it. I do. Actually, I learned that tonight. I didn't know that. And I do hear that part of it. But personally, I don't think waiting a year is an option for us. We have a unique experience here in Monroe. Education budgets are constantly being slashed over and over again in all towns, in all areas. And I constantly brag about the educational system we have here. So I'm asking you to please not let that slip away and to fully fund the education budget.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is PJ Payne, 103 Barnhill Road. I have lived in Monroe my entire life, and my family has lived here longer than Monroe's been a town. So I also was not someone that really chose to come here for its schools. I also don't have kids of my own at this point in time. Getting married in May, so we'll see what the future brings. But right now, nothing. But I will say my experience going through the public school systems here in Monroe until I graduated Massac in 2013, as someone who went to school with an IEP and learning disabilities and all that, led me to have such a great experience that I was able to turn down offers from some amazing colleges to go to a college that I truly felt fit me as a person, what I wanted to study. And I found out in that college experience that Massac and Talk Hill and Jockey Hollow and all the schools in Monroe gave me experiences that other students in my college classes did not have. Like, we were talking about certain studies in my history classes, and they're like, oh, I never knew that. And I'm like, I learned that in my freshman world history class. Like, what do you mean? Like it was such more individualized learning in our classes at Massac than so many other schools. Even with my fiance, who grew up in New Jersey and went to a very nice school in New Jersey, there's so many things, so many classes we had at Massac, and she's just blown away when I tell her, like, oh yeah, I had this, I think it was a astronomy class or something. I'm blanking on what the actual name was my freshman year of high school, which I don't like thinking how long ago that was. I had this and I learned this in that class. And she's like, you had that as an option. And I was like, you didn't have this as an option. It was just like some stuff to me, it just was so normal with the funding that we had even then, after all the budget cuts that I lived through when I was going through school. Because I remember every single one of those elections, every year, it was a budget cut. We still had so many classes, I should say, with that funding. To now even have less funding and less of that individualized learning for these students, especially students with IEPs and learning disabilities, makes me concerned for them to be able to go and have better futures than they would otherwise. So I really think just Mr. Kabza here, he was the principal my last, I think, 2 years at Massac. I would trust him with anything, honestly. If he's telling you he needs this money just for the bare minimum, I really think he's who you should listen to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nina Gagnon, 160 Pepper Street. I'm going to tell you a little story about my son. My son, Oliver, is in 5th grade at Stepney. Oh, thanks, Benari. He has ADHD. It was not diagnosed until spring of last year, but it came with consequences. He had a really hard time in class. He couldn't control his body. He couldn't control his frustration, and it would boil over. And it got to a point where we had to go and seek extra help in the form of intensive outpatient therapy. The administrators and the behavioral techs and the teachers all helped him immensely during this time. His 4th grade teacher would sit with him before school and say, okay, this is what you're going to miss later on today because you have to go to therapy. Let's go over it. And in that 10 minutes, because from the testing we found out he is in 99th percentile in almost every single category, he was able to, oh, yeah, I get it, no problem, easy peasy, okay? Fast forward, we have another incident, and we have to do this all over again. And it's an investment. It was investment of time. It was investment of money. At the time, at one of these moments, my husband is the breadwinner of our home, and he had no job. We had to go and get through all of our savings, waiting to get a new job, while we're also dealing with this highly disruptive situation and trying to get the help that he needs. And thankfully, with the help of Mrs. Fenari, Brittany Matt, the many other paras and educators at our school, he was able to find a way to get through it. And I am so proud to say that this semester he won the 180 award. Turned it around completely. His teachers recommended him or applied him to go and be part of the Yard Goats have a Most Improved Student Award thing. Each teacher can nominate 2 kids. It's across the whole entire state. He won it. He got picked because of the improvements that he made. Now, this is a metaphor in a way, because when we invest in the things that matter, things can change. We invested our time, we invested our money, we invested heartache and pain and, oh my God, so many hours in therapy. But in the end, he is now thriving in school. He is just a completely different person. The last time we had a PPT, Ms. Fenari showed up in a giraffe onesie because it was pajama day at school. And she's come when she's sick, when she, amazing job. And she goes, this is a good meeting. This is not a bad meeting, this is a good meeting. And we're getting good stuff back here. It's not too late to do a 180, to go back and invest in our schools. The last time we got an award was 2015. That's a decade ago. That's basically when I came to this town. It's not too late to turn it around, to invest in our schools, which will invest in our town. Aldi's is great, Starbucks is great, but they're not going to make the big difference in our town. That's not what's going to bring people to Monroe. Our schools are. Thank you.
Anyone else?
So there's one, I have one person with their hand raised. I don't know if you want to remind them to.
Yeah, so if you'd like to, if you're online and would like to participate, please use the raise your hand feature and then you'll be unmuted. And then just please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, so this first person, Amy Ginter.
Hello, this is Amy Ginter, 32 Summerview. Thank you to all involved in making this decision for your patience and clearly as well your time both tonight and all the hours and days before this. Thank you for listening to all of us speak and for allowing me to do so from my home since my daughter is sick. I love that the board, like educators, know that accommodations can benefit everyone. So I am a resident, a parent of Monroe students, and one of the speech language pathologists in the district. It says a lot that Monroe has so many parents who also work in their schools. As people have mentioned before, that isn't always a thing. As I mentioned, right around this time last year, unfortunately, to have to speak again so soon was unexpected. While I am based in one school, I have had the good fortune to help with and work with students and staff in each building of this district, from preschool to elementary, middle, both STEM and jockey, to Mathic. So I have seen incredible things across our district, both through the eyes of a staff member and also through the things that staff at my own children's schools do each and every day. As people have mentioned, from the emails, from the phone calls, the way they show that they are part of our students' lives. So when I first started as a speech pathologist, my future boss, the incomparable Elizabeth McKenzie, asked me if I considered myself to be creative and flexible. So back then I was sure I knew what that meant, and I knew the answer to the question. All these years later, I can confidently tell you that I only had an inkling of just how important these traits are, and not just in education. Tiffany LeConte, also my colleague, mentioned this word already, creative. As she said, everyone across this district is creative at every single level, from paras to bus drivers, from teachers to special education to our administrators. The sheer volume of decisions and choices aren't being made just daily, but they are literally moment to moment. It's exponential. Don't misunderstand. The support from those above us is absolutely unparalleled because they too are unfortunately hindered by the same theme. People can only be so creative when more with less becomes a recurrent theme. Each cut, each choice to have one person in the space of two, a shared space with larger groups, to take things away that can benefit even just one person. Know that it doesn't solely impact the students in that room, in that school, in that grade level. When these budgetary discussions have talked about cuts with the least impact, please know, as an educator, as a parent, as a resident, and honestly, as we teach our students every day at Von Hollow, and I teach my own kids, every choice has consequences, and some of them we don't see right away. I appreciate your consideration to the impact that each and every one of these choices makes, not just for next year, but for every year beyond that. Please consider the choice that can be made, the choices that can be made, so that teaching doesn't have to feel like a Herculean task of perpetually doing more with less. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is Gen A.
Jen A., can you hear us?
I can. Hi, guys. Jen Aguilar, 32 Surrey Lane. Sorry to take up more time. I know it's late. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but listening to everybody, number one, thank you all for your service. Number two, parents, thank you for being here and showing up and doing your data and doing your homework and speaking. Number three, I heard somebody say that maybe we could take the year off of giving the Board of Ed any money. When is the last time we gave the Board of Ed everything that they asked for? It has not been in the last 20 years. We have not fully given the Board of Ed everything that they asked for. Every year, the Board of Ed is cut. So by saying, let's give it 1 year, and then maybe next year we can give the Board of Ed what they asked for, we have never, in the 25 years I've been in the school system, given the Board of Ed, or the 20 years I've been paying attention, given the Board of Ed everything that they asked for. I should say, given the superintendent everything that they asked for, because sometimes the Board of Ed cuts what the superintendent asked for. I'm going to reiterate what Ben from Norwalk said. I moved here from Norwalk also for the schools, completely for the schools. It was here or Newtown. And we were closer to the highways here in Monroe, and that's why we chose Monroe. And I've been very involved in the schools since, I don't even know what year, 2000s and the early 2000s. And these are amazing schools. It's an amazing community. I want to keep it that way. What if, this is something I thought about while everybody was talking about all this, what if we actually funded schools and municipal, because I know they're also underfunded. By knowing many people who work there, they've been ignored for the last umpteen years. What if we funded them all? What if we did that for 1 year? What if we had a 6 to 7% increase 1 year and did that and righted all our past wrongs when we started to go down this, well, got to get it under 3% so that it'll pass. What if we did that and sold it? Wouldn't that be an awesome concept? Like, make a budget. Tell people what you want. Put the question on there, is it too high or too low? And let's sell the budget. Let's not put down the budget. Let's sell. I want to support Mr. Kobza. I want to support Mr. Rooney. I want to support both their budgets. Can't we just do that instead of having the professionals do this dance every single year and us doing the same thing every single year? I've said it before, I'm so tired of the dance, and I want everybody to get what we need to have the best thing we do. Let's do that for a year instead. Thank you again all for your service. Have a good night.
Patrick Egan.
Patrick, are you there?
Hang on a sec.
Patrick, if you unmute.
Yep, there we go. Sorry.
Great. That's okay.
Patrick Egan, 34 Old Colony Road in Monroe, Connecticut. Thank you everybody for coming tonight. Thank you everyone on the finance board for hearing us tonight. As I was listening to different people speak tonight, and I wasn't going to speak, I think one of the things that people, when they look at a budget, a town budget, they compare it too often to the budget in Hartford and the budget in Washington. And nobody likes paying more taxes. But the thing is, when you live in a town like Monroe, you can see where your money's going. You can see your roads being improved. You can see your schools being improved. And I know a couple people spoke tonight about, well, the need to keep our, maybe to take a year off. There's no way we should be, in my opinion, we should be taking a year off. Look at all the programs we no longer offer our students. And our number one driver, as most people said tonight, is our schools. So I would fully ask that not only do we fully fund the budget, that we should put the advisory question on and see if people are willing to spend more to improve our town. Because again, we can see those improvements and see where our money is going, as opposed to when it goes to Hartford or to Washington. We can actually see the good our money's doing. Thank you, everybody, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brittany or Steve, and it's Dias.
Steve Diaz.
Yes, hi, Steve Diaz, 30 Greenfield Hill Road in Monroe. Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Hey, how are you? I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I had to only because my daughter was listening. And my daughter's a sixth grader in STEM. And when I heard the person say, hey, let's kick the can down the road, well, at least that's how I heard it. That's the wrong thing to do. And I know we can blame COVID, and maybe COVID was the reason why some kids did slide. But I know for a fact, for Elise Diaz, if it wasn't for Mrs. Dubinsky to stay after for 3 hours every week, the whole school year, to get my daughter, I'll say her name again, Elise Diaz, to go up 3 reading grades was immense. And I owe her thousands of dollars because I know the school system didn't pay her. And by the way, she did it in a storage closet, low budget, out of her own time. And again, this is because the teachers in this town care. They teach the kids to care. I want to start seeing the people that we pay with our tax dollars to start to care. That's what I want to see. And apparently, the town of Monroe is broke. Steve Diaz, 30 Greenfield Hill Road, come get another 10% out of me. I'll give it to you. Because we got to start focusing on where this money goes. Last time I checked, the parents in Monroe and also all the other people that spoke today in the last meeting, whatever, we're not looking for anything expensive. We know what the schools look like. We're not here for anything that's gonna be, wine and dine. We get it. We want the teachers that are there and they don't leave to go to Westport or Fairfield to get more money, because the teachers that we have now, again, they care. We got to get everybody else to have that same mindset. And whatever it takes, I'm one of those parents that always wants to help out and always give back to the schools. And if I have to do it financially, come get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brittany Mann.
Brittany Mann, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right,
Hi.
thank you for hanging on with us.
Of course. This is Brittany Mann from 10 Pine Tree Road. I'm speaking tonight as a community member. I am employed in our schools. I work in our, but I'm not speaking on behalf of our schools. I'm speaking as a resident and a mother of the town. I work in our schools supporting students with behavioral and emotional needs, and I care deeply about this work and care deeply about these kids. I'm not there in person tonight because, frankly, I'm at home and I'm still working. Not because I have to be or it's required, but because the level of the needs does not stop at the end of the day. And I know right now I'm not the only one still working. There are many people in the district who continue showing up long after they're required to, because the kids we support need more than what fits into the schedule. But that shouldn't be what our system depends on. Right now, we're seeing an increase in both the frequency and intensity of student needs. When those needs rise, the demand on the system rises with it. And when the system cannot keep up, the impact is not theoretical. It is felt in classrooms, in staff capacity, and in students' ability to access their education. The people in these buildings care, and they are trying, and they are extending themselves every single day. But care and effort are not a replacement for resources. When we talk about reducing or limiting supports, we may feel we are saving money, but we are not saving. We are shifting the cost, and the cost is carried by students who struggle to access their education, by classrooms that become harder to stabilize, and by staff stretched beyond what is sustainable. If we want students to be successful, if we want classrooms to be stable, if we want staff to be able to do their jobs well, then the level of support has to match the level of need. A budget reflects what we are willing to prioritize. I'm asking that we prioritize the supports that make access to education possible for all students, because the need is already here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You want to tell mine? Okay. Yes.
30 seconds.
I'm sorry?
Make them up again for 30 seconds.
I'll allow it. Okay.
Chris Grummett, 33 Hillside Lane, Monroe. I just heard something tonight that kind of got me. And that's why I'm up here again. And it's something that I understand has been going on over and over again. Okay? I know we're here for the Board of Education, but when we hear somebody with 17 years experience is making that and the other two towns are making more, it's kind of saying something with the whole budget is screwed up. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, we gotta do better. That's all I really have to say. I mean, I did move here for education, but if it's something as a whole, we have to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you. I thank everyone for coming out and participating. Seeing that there's no additional participants, I want to close the public hearing. It's 8:18 p.m. I do want to take a 5-minute break. So we could stand. And then we'll come back and do workshop.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep the meeting open. I'll just stop.
Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. Please settle down. We're calling the meeting back to order. Please take your conversations to the vestibule because we need to get started. The time is now 8:34. We're calling our budget workshop to order. I'm going to take roll call once again. Catherine Stoffer. Present. Steve Kirsch. Present. Dee Stalmex. Present. Nick Sentimentes. Present. Samantha Spino. Present. Terry Rooney.
Present.
Joe Cobsa.
Present.
Ron Banofsky.
Present.
Heidi Mead. Frank Duchess.
Present.
Joe, I know you brought a presentation. I'm going to kick it over to you to walk us through it.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you for everything. I know it was an incredibly long night. I wish more people would stay because I love the energy and enthusiasm we have this year for this budget. That needs to, I mean, the important thing is that needs to carry on through the referendum for sure. And that's the conversation I've had with folks all along. We are, I'll preface this by saying with the restoration of the first selectmen's, with the restoration of the first selectmen's $1.2 million, we are in a much more tenable position. And some numbers have come in, some things have shifted, and I want to share that with you. But I figured I would start tonight. And I also, I have the answers to most of the questions. I think the questions that were sent in probably before 4 o'clock we have. And if there's other questions, we'll address those as well. I want to thank my team that are all here as well. I'm sure if I can't answer some of the questions, they'll be able to do that for me. So I also want to make this as much of a dialogue and less of a monologue as possible. So if at any point you have questions about anything, please feel free just to interrupt me and ask away. So I figured what I would do is I'd give a quick elevator pitch of the executive summary of the Board of Education budget, and then kind of give you an update of where we are now with the initial adjustments in the restoration of the $1.2 million. So this is the presentation that was given at my budget proposal back in December. So some of these numbers have actually changed a little bit. So this is using those figures from December. So I figured you folks were numbers people. I thought this was interesting. We look at 3,465 kids. You heard a lot of folks up here talk about high need students. The state classifies, and we classify high need students in one of three categories. Our special education students. At the time of the budget, we had 693. Today, I think there's 711. Special education students, students on free and reduced lunch, 417 students on free and reduced lunch right now, as well as our multilingual learner students. We have at the time of the budget presentation, 101 multilingual learner students. I would say we have a few less now, because our MLL teachers have done an awesome job working with kids and getting them independent enough where they don't need the services or need fewer services. Like a lot of people in this room today, I also grew up in town. But one of the stats that really jumps out at me, and I look at the demographics of how Monroe has changed over these years, is, yes, the number of multilingual learner students. I think it was Alan Isabella who was talking about, about 10 years ago, there was a handful. We had a half-time MLL teacher in the entire district to service maybe between 12 and 18 students. 101 students now, but the number that really jumped out at me when I was putting this budget together was 620 students that indicate a language other than English as either the language that was their first language, the language that's used most often, or the language that's used at home. So it's really, really speaks to the changing demographic in Monroe over these many years. You can see all the other stuff. The other thing that really jumps out at me is, 568,540 square feet on 88 acres. Our schools become centers of teaching and learning during the day, and they become our community centers after school as well. I won't go into each of the district goals, you could read them. I hate when people read presentations to me. Just understand that our goals are based around three things. This is my superintendent goals, as well as our district goals revolve around these four areas. So when I put in requests, our requests have to align to one of these four goals: high quality instruction, student achievement, engagement, family engagement, community engagement, as well as facilities and operations. Going into this budget, there were certain assumptions that were made that we make every year going into a budget, and these were the ones that were made going into this year. The first one was that we saw a little bit of a dip in kindergarten population this year. We are anticipating to have the same number of sections, and that's really where section sizes will change, is at the elementary schools first. This budget assumes that we will have the same number of sections next year as we have this year. And I can tell you right now, we're trending in that direction. It looks like our numbers will be to have the same number of sections. This assumption has changed. Again, this is the presentation from when it was given back on December 16th. That early insurance projection of 15%. So this budget was built with 15% projection. That's what we were told by the state. The town got the same numbers. Our special education budget was based on the students that were in front of us at that time. Like I said, that was 693 students. Now it's 711. I know that was one of your questions before. The last two assumptions with that grant funding would remain stable. There were some questions about federal title grants and whatnot. So far, all indications are that those grants will be flat funded from this year to next year. So they will remain stable. And we've been living in this inflationary period. I don't have to talk about that. And everybody who goes to the grocery store knows that. This was the to me, the $3.2 million slide of the budget presentation. It really talks about, what drove this budget. I believe I shared this with this board earlier in the budget season as well. But it really talks about, we've talked about it over and over. What are the drivers of this budget? We know that it is salaries and benefits were the two big drivers. Of my 5.16% proposal, 4.33% of that was in salaries and benefits. And it's amazing, the thing that we're not talking about, and I know there's nothing we can do at the local level right now, but this number here, the health insurance number, is real. It's problematic. It's problematic in Monroe. It's problematic in Trumbull. All over the state, you're seeing the same thing. But the fact that the increase in health insurance just about mirrored the increase in salaries is amazing. Knowing that the base number is significantly smaller, but when you have increases of 15%, it's one of those things that we use the word unsustainable. The rest of if you look at the rest of the lines of increase was transportation, outside agencies, primarily around, that's a special education line. And then I had three asks in this budget. Assistant principal at Seton Elementary, a 0.2 math teacher, a 0.2 teacher to increase math instruction at the middle school, and then a 0.3 speech and language pathologist. So if you took the two big ones, plus these other ones that increased, and then you took all the rest of the lines of the budget as proposed back in December excluding these few things here, was $106,000 less than the previous year. So I credit the principals and the directors for their work on that, because really they, had to tighten their belts and, find places of efficiency to come in lower with things like instructional supplies and equipment and things of that nature. But this is really, the salaries and benefits were the main driver. We talked about that quite a bit. I broke this up. It's tough to see on here. This is just broken up. It's just another way of looking at the budget, looking at it by cost center. The two biggest cost centers are special education and then insurance, followed, logically by schools. Massac being the biggest, Jockey Hollow being the second biggest, Fawn Hollow, Stepney and Monroe Elementary, and then you see the rest of the cost centers. If you look at it by expenditure type, say this every year, this business is a human resources business. So the two big pieces of the pie are salaries and benefits, as I already explained. And you can see what makes up the other areas there, with the all other services being the third biggest there. So this budget asks for, we requested three things. And again, these are directly related to our priorities. And the first priority we talked about was high quality instruction. One of the things that we've experienced and that has really been experienced around the country is a decrease in performance in mathematics. We have identified an opportunity where we can create additional instructional minutes in sixth grade at the elementary school. So currently right now what happens, our students are given a double block of ELA, English Language Arts, Skills and Strategies. This would be, rather than having a double block of ELA every day, it would alternate every day with math instruction. And we're confident that we can continue to work in ELA. We had some great results in ELA, but we know when we look at our peers who are doing significantly better than us in math instruction, we look at their instructional minutes and we see that they have much more time. So this would be almost giving half the amount of time back to math that we currently give to ELA. At Fawn Hollow, we put in a request for a speech and language pathologist. Currently, there's 94 students at Fawn Hollow that receive speech and language services. That's being completed by 1.5 speech and language pathologists. It's an untenable workload. We have to figure out a way to balance the caseloads. This would, and actually, I apologize too, that the previous position, that 0.2 would be adding to, it's not looking to bring in another person at a 0.2, which is the equivalent of 1 day a week. It's just adding to a person's current load now. And that's the same thing with this speech pathologist to ensure compliance with IEP service delivery, that we would increase one of our current speech and language pathologists by a 0.3 to make sure we have balance across the district. The final thing, I know this was talked about earlier tonight as well. Last year, there was one other school in our DIRG. Someone talked about that earlier. It's our district reference group. It's towns that are similar to Monroe in socioeconomic status and demographics and whatnot. There was one other school in our DIRG that was slightly bigger than us that did not have an assistant principal as well. I called that superintendent. I said, well, you're the only one I know that has a school this big that doesn't have an assistant principal. And she told me, she goes, well, I'm redistricting students in that school now. So it was going to move that school to about 440 students. So I'm pretty confident that today we stand as that's the largest school in our district reference group and probably in the area without an assistant principal. I talked earlier about high needs students, and when you look at Stepney Elementary School, it was identified as our Title I school. Every year, a school in the district is identified as a Title I school. Title I school is based on high need students. Stepney proportionally has the largest need of high needs in the district, with 93 special education students, 23 MLL teachers 23 MLL students out of that total 100 students in the district. 23 of them are at Stepney. And then 93 students on free and reduced lunch. And you look at Stepney's percentage compared to the district percentages there, you can see it outpaces the district's percentages. So those were the three requests that we had. So where are we today? So if you follow this little path, the next two slides here, I'm going to tell you how we are trying to address where we are right now. And like I said, I think we are in a much more tenable situation than we were a few weeks ago and again, this assumes the restoration of the $1.2 million. If the $1.2 million is added back, that's what this includes right here. So this is last year's approved budget. This was my proposed budget for an increase of 3.853, 250 adjustment at the Board of Ed level, a 1.603 adjustment at the first selectman level, for a total of a 1.853 adjustment, moving our increase to 2 million at the time. So that put us down that 1.853, 230 from my proposed budget. Insurance has come in. We know that it's at 12.5%, not 15%. So we had a pickup initially of $250,000. And then the first selectman's restoration of 1.2 puts our shortfall currently at the 403, a number that we've all talked about before. So how are we going to mitigate that? I think we are in a position now where we could mitigate this, and with some conversation, with some different ideas with this board here in a very significant way. So if I look at our 403, went back to all of our principals and directors, and we sat down for a while and we looked at a number of things. First, there's some things on here that are no-brainers. Our director of IT, Paul Forrest, is here. He's already working on a new phone maintenance contract. That's going to be almost a $27,000 savings, along with toner and phone repair items as well that does not need to be backfilled. Just recently, we just received our second of 2 late retirees. So as we were building the budget, if folks retired, we accounted for that in the budget process. We've just gotten 2 very late retirees. So when we take their salaries minus the retirement payout that they could be afforded, and then when we factor in the new teachers at a significantly lower rate, the delta is about $52,500. So that's how we're using that there. In addition to the $250,000, we also looked at that delta from 15 to 12.5%. Ron was able to crunch some numbers, and we were looking at be comfortable with another additional $50,000. And I'll come back and talk a little bit more about insurance in a few minutes as well. And then finally, the reduction of 3 paraeducators. And quite frankly, we have 3 open positions for paraeducators at this time right now that are unfilled. We've reallocated the current paraeducators that we have. We are doing fine. So this would not be 3 paraeducators losing their jobs. This is 3 positions that we haven't been able to fill for a good part of the year. So why keep budgeting them forward if we are meeting the needs of our students? So those things there come up to $209,475. What leaves us with a shortfall still of $193,755. The last 3 things I want to talk about, because these had asterisks associated with them, because these were revenue line items. So we have a pre-K teacher. One of the initial thoughts was fund the pre-K teacher with the pre-K revenue line. So there's about, and I think one of the questions about the revenue lines came up. There is about $194,000 currently sitting in that pre-K revenue line. That's revenue that comes in from regular education students who participate in our preschool program. The preschool program is free for students ages 3 through 5 who receive special education services. They are supposed to spend their day with 50% of the population being regular education students. Parents take advantage of our great preschool program and pay tuition for it. So we would allocate about $88,755 of that to a preschool teacher. I don't know that would be and I think this was one of the questions. I don't know if that would be necessarily sustainable from year to year, because that 194 we would use for this We also offset a few other salaries for pre-K, as well as pay for some supplies out of that line as well. So that could be a 1 year, or if we were to hit it for a second year, it would have to probably be, a little bit less than that next year. The next two items are Chromebooks and maintenance for summer help. We have a couple of revenue lines. We have a revenue line for facilities when people, rent the pool or the auditorium or things of that nature. We have the pre-K line, and then the other bigger one that we have is for the Monroe Early Learning Center. That's a daycare / preschool program dedicated for town and education employees, municipal and education employees, to provide daycare services for their children. We do have some revenue in that account right now, and I would argue, and I know Paul would like me to argue this as well, because he doesn't like his line going up $75,000 every year. But I would argue that this is a figure that we'd be able to cover every year, which is half of the Chromebooks. Remember, the total Chromebook line is $150,000. We get new Chromebooks for students in 4th grade and 8th grade, so it's about $75,000 in each grade. Although Paul, the doomsdayer he is, talks about how expensive things are getting. So I imagine Chromebooks are going to be going up as well. So, but we would use that. I would recommend using that revenue line annually to pay for half those Chromebooks. So this way we don't have an increase next year of $75,000 on Paul's lines. And it is something that we can do. And then the last one is using that same revenue line to pay for the summer help for maintenance. Last year we cut this. When we cut this last year, it meant that we did not provide the same level of service to our schools that we do every other year. Every year we hire summer help, which is usually a bunch of high school kids to come in. They literally go into the building, empty every single article, content, desk, chair out of every single classroom, move it out to the hallways. We go into those rooms, they strip the floors, clean the floors, and then put 3 coats of wax and we put them back in. Last year we did not do that in our classroom floors. We did do that work in our hallways and in our big areas like the cafeterias, but not in our classrooms. So that's the kind of work that it was okay to do this year. Our buildings were fine, but it's not something you want to keep deferring, because then we're going to get to a point where we're going to start needing to replace floor tiles and things of that nature. So I would suggest using this year, part of my argument would be use revenue funds for that if we need to. I don't think it is not sustainable to say we could use the Monroe Early Learning Center revenue to cover both of those items in perpetuity, but I do think we could knock off the Chromebooks year after year. The last thing I just want to mention is insurance, because there is another lever here, and this is where as more information comes out throughout this process, and we know that this is a long process. We're looking at insurance. So we had the $250 pickup and then the additional $50. Right now, that still leaves us with a contingency of about $400,000 in insurance for next year. Just putting it out there to this board, however you might want to utilize that. I have that $400,000 kind of in my head. It's broken up into known contingency and unknown contingency. We know about $200,000 in people who want to move on to our healthcare. So they've already approached Sheila. They've already talked to her. Hey, I want to, when's open enrollment? I got to get my family on. So we know that. We know there's about $200,000 in known contingency. I don't know who's going off. Nobody has come to us and told us that. Not to say that they won't go off. So and they could go off. And then we have the unknown contingency, which is at $200,000. That could be something that this board, it could be just an additional lever for this board if they wanted to do something with that $200,000. Knowing that if you did and we had an issue at the end of the year, if we could not cover it by other means, that we might have to come back to this board. So I know this was brought up a few times tonight. I know per pupil expenditures have come up, and I just thought it was important to share. I don't live and die by per pupil expenditures. I do think this tells a little bit of the story, and I'm not saying, oh, we don't pay for education. We know that education is, it's expensive. We know that. But what I do think it says is that we get a pretty good bang for our buck in Monroe. And I think when you compare it against other districts in our district reference group, and you see where we fall with this, it is more of an apples to apples comparison. I don't suggest, and I don't try to compare Monroe with any other town in the state, because cities have way different situations going on. Small towns, you'll see small towns that have per pupil expenditures of over $30,000. This is the per pupil expenditure that the State Department Bureau of Fiscal Services uses when they calculate our special education excess cost grant refunds. So if you remember, excess cost is based on a student who, if we spend more than 4.5 times the per pupil expenditure, that's this number. So once we spend more than a little over $90,000, then excess cost kicks in. So that's what we use for this, just to have apples to apples with all the other districts. So you see, just trouble in South Windsor or lower than ours. And again, I don't say this as I don't live and die by this number, but I do think it does reflect the fact that we do budget and spend our money wisely. I figured that's all you needed from me from now. I know you had a bunch of here. I'm happy to go through those, or if you have additional questions.
Go through those.
Yeah, let's go through the Q&As. Yeah.
Sure. So the first question was, I think that was answered. That was asking how if the first selectman's recommendation to add back 1.2, how does that change the mitigation list? That was the new mitigation list. So
okay,
that was that right there. The next one talked about the mitigation includes savings of 105,679 for pre-K. I lowered that to 870. I'm sorry, to 88,755. I lowered it to 88,755 because that zeroed out the 193.
okay.
Does that make sense? But the question here, and the question in the next question about the Chromebooks and the maintenance summer helps are these one-time fixes, or is this something we can rely on annually? As I mentioned, this is probably a one-time fix. Maybe we could do a little bit next year, offset a little bit of salary next year. This is likely a one-time solution. But the 75,000, I'm confident that we could use that number going forward.
Okay.
Question 4 said, under the curriculum instruction in the all budget line items at the schools, can you explain what types of expenses fall under the individual line items? I put that there for you. It's kind of long. And then I think the question there was, what would it be? And then, would it be a one-time savings, or is it, one-time savings, or would it be a permanent change? There's very few areas in there where there are permanent changes. There are some, like the CAMI software for the curriculum instruction, the digital recognition platform, that would be a permanent. The other items would all be deferred for the future.
Yeah, Steve, go ahead.
Go ahead, Steve.
So if I understand this correctly now, looking at your presentation, these things are no longer on the table as being a needed mitigation item.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So, appreciate the detail, but yeah, okay.
May I continue?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
next question is on the elimination of the massive math person. We just talked about larger class sizes. Math is the, like I said, it is our, I don't want to say our focus because we're, this might go to math, but math is definitely lagged further behind. So this would just create larger class sizes and give us less opportunities to, provide remediation to students who need it.
Well, again, this one now has been, has been eliminated as a,
correct,
as a necessary action.
Okay, hit the next question. The special education students at the time of the budget proposal was 695, and now it's 711.
So have we monetized that at all? Does that affect the special ed? No.
We had any major hits to special ed based on the addition of the 15 kids?
The kids that just came in since December, they're showing up.
Yeah, there's
So there,
16 more kids, so
yeah,
are you
there
good?
is more, there is more that we will be spending, but it's something that we can't handle.
So it's, am I right that at the end of the school year, and the next question addresses that, we're going to have a drop and then we go up. So there's this pattern that I think I've recognized over the years is you start the school year at X, you grow over the course of the year, June they graduate, and then while it's a drop, then the next year and you peak at a higher amount. And so that difference in the coming year is not accounted for. It just has to be absorbed within the budget and within internal transfers that you all do.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that number, just so everyone understands, that number, the students will graduate out. There's obviously a student graduates from the high school, they're going to be dismissed from special education, or they could just, no longer need services and be dismissed. Then when the new year starts, that number always goes up because our pre-K program is a special education program. So all kids that are identified, from birth to 3 that start our pre-K program only add to that number. And then we have, we can have people move in or we can have people move out. Jen reports out on that at every board meeting, as well as other kids who could be made eligible during the year.
We do have students that are dismissed from services K-12 throughout the year. We just don't know when that's going to happen or if it will, but we do have students at that time. But the 37 kids that we have on this question that we answered are the students that we know that are graduating from us.
Yeah, I think the point that I come back to every time I hear it at the Board of Ed meeting is you're working with what you have now, and while you're planning your next year's budget with what you had back in December or November when you all are putting it together, and you don't come back to the town or to us, even though we've had a reserve fund, and say, oh, I now have more kids, I'm now spending X dollars more. You all have a history of being able to absorb that and manage the overall school budget. And I think that's an important thing for people to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. The next 2 questions about librarians and office personnel, that's based on the fact that there was 2 open contracts this year for librarians and for secretaries. So that's why those numbers were lower this year. And you'll see the change in payroll adjustments in that line 751,280. The payroll adjustment line is significantly lower than the year before. It was like 280,000 or 250,000 last year, 267, and this year it was 50,000. Last year, the open contract was the teacher's contract, the largest contract in the district. This year, the open contracts were librarians. There's 2 of them, and then the secretaries. The fluctuation, the question was professional education, 753,200. This has fluctuated a lot over the past 3 years. Can I get a little insight on how this figure is determined each year? And it's really This is really attributed to outside agencies and services, special ed, which reflects the special ed services for students provided by outside agencies. So those are students that we can't service in district for things like behavioral needs, auditory processing needs, other specialized needs, OT and PT that are OTs and PTs, it's above and beyond their capability. So that's where that number was developed. And that's based on the students that were in front of us when we created the budget. Increases in transportation. So the question was, is this primarily increase from the bus company? We need more buses and drivers to accommodate it. There's two answers here. Primarily due to the increased costs of private transportation for special education to our outplacement programs, as well as we are also obligated to transport students who are deemed homeless under the McKinney-Vento Act. So we have to pay for transportation, so they could be living out of town, but they could be homeless, by the state definition. We have to provide transportation still. And then the remaining increase is based on the negotiated contract with the bus company.
Joe, I have a question regarding transportation. So it seems the $2.5 million for the buses, it's about $80,000 per bus. Has anyone looked at the utilization of buses? I see 1 million cars, people dropping their kids off lines, going to the schools with one child per car. So I'm thinking the buses aren't being utilized to their maximum. So do we know if there's 50 seats on a bus and there's 10 kids on a bus, can we contract shorter buses or smaller buses and save some money? Maybe drop it from 80,000 to 50 or 60 and realize some savings there?
Yeah, I mean, the issue with the buses is they run on tiers. So where you'll see fewer people getting dropped off is at the fewer kids taking the buses at the high school level. The elementary schools, I know I went and checked at Stepney one day, and the buses were pretty loaded. There is supposed to be a seat for every student that takes it. We can talk to the bus company and get actuals to see if there is a pickup in ridership. Last year, the bus company came to me saying that they thought they were going to, actually it was in June. They said, hey, listen, we're going to need to add a bus next year. The rides are too long to get too many kids. And I said, you can't do that right now. There's no way we can pick up another bus. So I can continue to look into that, but I don't think that's the possibility. Those buses they're tiered for each of the 3 runs. So in some schools, like at Massac, there's definitely fewer kids, especially in the afternoon when kids are staying after for athletics and whatnot. But we're already paying for that tier of buses for all 3.
The cost to run the shorter buses is actually the same.
It's the same price. Yeah, thanks.
Is any of this transportation, there was a discussion at the Board of Ed meeting with transportation for sports and after-school activities and not being able to use our bus company and having to go to outside.
Our bus companies have been better. They haven't been perfect, that's for sure. And I know we haven't been able to provide transportation at the middle school. But to your point, though, Steve, you're correct. It does require us using outside vendors to go to games. Usually they'll have 1 or 2 buses maybe available at the time the high school buses are dismissing to be able to run kids to a game. Beyond that, we're using other companies. I know Steve and the athletic director, Brian Horgan, do a great job vetting those companies and trying to find the most cost-efficient ones, but they're more expensive than ours.
Yeah, so does this budget include?
There's contingencies.
Contingency for that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think this came up last year, right? That was something we're considering cutting, and we funded it back for this exact reason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know there was a big discussion at a Board of Ed meeting in the not too distant past. And that came up, so, okay.
So Joe, I do have a question, and this is kind of like out of the box a little bit. Have there ever been a review to reverse tier where high school doesn't start first, elementary does? And would that change any of the transportation costs? Because I know, like, if you think about elementary, a lot of the families are getting before school care, right? So they would benefit from the earlier mornings. And then you've got teens who would benefit from that adolescent sleep, stuff. So I'm just curious if there was ever an assessment that the district did on that.
We've never done one. I know some other towns that have done it, and a lot of them have unwound it. First of all, it wreaks havoc with athletics, not just our own athletics, but
Right.
Not being on different schedules with other towns.
Hour difference makes
Yeah.
a difference, yeah. Okay.
So, we haven't.
I was just curious because I know obviously the transportation falls off the older they get.
Yeah.
So would there be, something to think about, I guess, but it won't work.
Does it,
We're gonna be paying for that tier no matter what. And being 3 tiers is more cost effective from my understanding than having 2 tiers. If you have 2 tiers, you need more buses. So I know, I think next door in Trumbull, part of their mitigation strategies is to move to a 3rd tier, kind of like ours. Right now, they have 2 tiers. I think their high school and middle school goes in at the 2 middle schools go in at the same time, and their elementary schools go in at a separate time.
And we've reviewed the tiers, like they all still continue to make sense.
They do, yeah.
Does the board still have a policy for length of time the students should be on the bus?
They do. I think it is, something you have to be out for under an hour.
Yeah, it's also part of state statute.
And what was it?
It has to be under an hour.
Okay.
just out of curiosity, are there certain homes that are very close to elementary schools or whatever school where they're not, offer buses? Like, is it kind of like?
We don't, Rebecca and I were talking about this. We offer buses to all the kids only because we don't have sidewalks.
That's kind of what I figured. I just wanted
Yeah,
to kind of ask.
we're crossing guards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I live right across from Massac, and
Yeah.
I saw the kids at 7:00 get off the bus in my neighborhood and go right to Massac, which I was like, it is a scary road to cross at 11. So that's fine by me, right? But thinking about alternatives like having a crossing guard.
Sorry, Sam.
That's okay.
Does the district put together the routes or does the
bus company?
So they must use.
They have
software to optimize routes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And they're great listen, we've had our struggles with extracurriculars, but during the day, unlike a lot of other towns, our bus company's been really good about getting buses, getting kids back and forth to school, which isn't the same in every other town. And then when we have situations, just last week, there was a tree down on Judd Road really early in the morning. I don't know what software they use, but they could figure out really quickly that, okay, we're going to have to alter these 12 buses and change routes and, send a message out to these families. And so, yeah, they're pretty powerful.
That's good to hear. Thanks.
Okay, still going. Natural gas and electricity, Ron, I don't know if you want to, I know this is numbers that you.
Yeah, so I prepared those numbers with Town Hall, used the same, again, these calculations are, probably 4 months old at this point. Myself and the Director of Public Works, we're going to revisit this next week. And I think we're comfortable keeping the budget numbers the same. I think we're going to look to possibly add some contingency just for unknowns.
Okay.
That would be both municipal and Board of Ed.
Yeah, I think that
Things going on, right?
Yeah.
That just reminded me, and something that I think this board should keep in mind is the sale of Aquarian. Is that moving forward? Is there potential that it could still be moving forward? I just thought about like gas and the contingency and,
Well, this is Board of Education, not municipal, but yes. So, it's pretty known to this community that we're looking to acquire 64 acres of open space by Benedict's. I don't think there's anybody in this room that wouldn't agree with preserving our open space. We've been working through that diligently. That is in the hands of the town attorney. These are complicated negotiations because it involves the land trust, Aspetuck Land Trust. So we're working out the particulars, but yes, that may be something that's going to come to fruition relatively quickly. But until I have exact numbers or where it's going to land. We're going to leave it as where it is right now. But I would say to this board, seeing that you asked me that question, probably within the next few months, we will be seeing something materialize with that. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I apologize, Joe.
I didn't realize the Benedict's property, I thought that we were purchasing it from Benedict's. It's also Aquarian land over there, or?
No, I
Never said Aquarian.
I think that's two different.
Aquarian, so
That didn't.
how do you bring Aquarian up? Aquarian,
That was my original.
Aquarian is a whole different issue with the purchase of RWA has purchased Aquarian, and Aquarian has a large amount of land in this town.
Yeah.
And so we will see if Aquarian moves forward, if RWA moves forward in a different way than how Aquarian operated. There is a pilot program that says they will continue. We may see a large decrease in our tax revenue there as well. So not that the Aspetuck Land Trust thing, but to answer your question, it's not Aquarian. It's Aspetuck Land Trust. It's an organization that buys up open space. And in this particular deal, in most of these deals, Aspetuck Land Trust would purchase the property alone. But in this deal, because the Benedict's property had come to the town first, and then they went to Aspen, so they found a way to cohesively do this. So there's a little bit of a break for the town, and they found some grants. So it's an unusual merger, and the management moving forward has some particular items, as you would imagine, for maintenance and things. So, but it's being worked on. So.
Yeah, I voted on that when I was on the Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
Committee. So.
It's a great thing for the town.
Open space is great.
I agree.
Agreed.
Next question was about textbooks. You see where those are allocated to two AP classes, a new class at Math, AP Environmental Science, an update to the AP Spanish. The former textbook no longer aligned to the AP test any longer. And then we did update the business law text, which had not been updated in 18 years. So not necessarily, I think the question was, were they state regulated? They're not necessarily state regulated changes, but they are necessary to run the courses. Technology related hardware, what kind of hardware we're talking about. So that line included the $150,000 for the Chromebooks. We said Chromebooks for fourth graders and eighth graders, $40,000 for PC replacements for school labs, and then another $15,000 for staff laptop replacements. So it's all instructional technology equipment, not necessarily switches and things of that nature.
And those are on a 3 or 5 year rotation. So.
The Chromebooks, well, that's a year every year.
Yeah.
Staff.
All of those are year over year.
Question came.
Joe, the Chromebooks, we're in what year of the cycle now?
This is our second
year
of one-to-one.
The third eighth grade program?
This is so right now it is our ninth graders, right? Yep. So they were eighth graders last year, they had it. Now they're in ninth grade. Next year it'll be 4 through 10.
So it'll be the third year.
Next year will be the third year. Yep.
This budget will be the third year.
Question about different teacher software, which is a great question, and efforts to consolidate into a single platform. So currently we use Google Workspace for instructional materials, things like Google Classroom, for word processing, presentations, all that good stuff. We have Pearson, which does our student information system, Power School, and Performance Matters, which is student assessment analytics. Next year, we're going to take all of our communication and bundle it into a platform called Parent Square. So we're really excited about Stepney. What's the word? Piloted. Thank you. It's getting late. Stepney piloted Parent Square this year. It's really nice. It really gives us a lot of functionality to serve as the main hub of communication, but two-way communication between home and school, school back to home. Teachers are using it. So instead of having this teacher on Class Dojo, this teacher on Schoology, this person on Remind, and this person using School Messenger, everything will be captured under Parent Square. It also gives us an opportunity to create groups. So our PTOs can use it, our athletic teams can use it, our clubs, our drama theater, all that stuff can use it. And I think the most exciting thing is right now, if we want to get, if we want to get a message out to the community, there's the Da Vinci Festival is coming up or something like that. We have to use School Messenger, but that only goes to our parents. It only goes to our families and our community. We can invite the community to sign up to get community announcements. So, everyone in the town can know what's going on in the schools. And
I can say that is very exciting.
it's very exciting.
I know, I miss Mr. Swenson's calls.
You'll still get them. Just come out there. Get the calls. And the last one was, it's a very good question. I'm assuming by trailers we meant portables. If portable classrooms are needed, they're going to be needed at, I would think they're going to be needed at Jockey Hollow when this bubble of fourth graders, and especially fourth and second graders, move up into Jockey Hollow, and we would have to put them on there. So they probably do need to go on because that would be the 27, 28 school year when the first bubble of fourth graders go up. And that's something we're working on with Julia, who's a master scheduler. So that needs to go on. It's going to need to go on.
I'd like to go back to your presentation for a second, and talk about the paraeducators. There are 3 unfilled positions right there. And so you leave them unfilled next year. But are you envisioning that as a permanent change? You're not going to need them?
I'm envisioning that as a permanent change. We've been talking a lot about paras and the way we're allocating paras. So
So headcount wise, that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I? Oh, there you go.
That's okay. I was just going to say the same thing. Just to piggyback on that. Other than paraeducators, are there any other areas of open positions that are in the same situation that have been open for a little while that you're discussing? Maybe changing, reclassing, anything like that? No? Okay. Thank you.
I was just going to ask, I don't remember. Oh, yeah. How long were those 3 positions open for? Was it just for the current school year, or has it been like?
Pretty much this entire school year. Yeah.
This school year. So they were full filled positions in the prior school year. So I know you're reshuffling things, but just kind of curious how long.
It's a very, the nature of the position too, quite frankly, is it's very transient. Doesn't get paid a lot. So, there's a lot of, onboarding and offboarding of paraeducators, but those 3 in particular, we have not filled all year. So why move forward? And like I said, we've been taking a really hard look at paraeducators across the district.
Speak of this really quickly on behalf of Stephanie. The position I had available, at one point we were filling it with the district sub, trying to hire for it, but then we were able, we have meetings often on students and student needs change. So that's where we need the position. We're always looking and trying, somebody had said, to really look at the budget and make sure, the positions are what we have to be. That's why when we have a conversation, that's, for my building at least.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So just a couple questions on your mitigation options there. If I look at the first one, the phone maintenance and contract, is that related to the change of phone systems, Paul, that we're doing?
Yes.
Okay, so that approval is driving that.
Yeah.
The second one, the toner, if I look at both of those, I would say they're really management due diligence. They're not having any impact on instructional capability.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the next 2. If you look at retirees and insurance, that's just new information that's come to light since your budget was input. So again, no impact on instructional capabilities.
Nope.
The paraeducators, I think we just talked about.
Yes.
You've been looking at it, not that it's a cut that's impacting instructional capability, but you looked at a way of utilizing the staff you have to address that capability.
Right.
Okay. So again, we're not impacting instructional capability. If I go down to Chromebooks, the 75,000, that's really being offset by revenue that's coming in. So no impact on instructional capabilities.
Right.
The maintenance and summer help may only be a one-time shot, but that's $30,000 that does not impact instructional capabilities.
Right.
The pre-K, I'm not sure I fully understand that. when you went through it. Maybe you could just explain that one too.
Yeah, no, it's the same thought process behind the Chromebooks and the summer maintenance help. The pre-K, our pre-K program takes tuition from regular education students, so that's
Okay.
ages 3 through 5. So there's a revenue generating.
Revenue that can offset that.
Offset that. I just don't know if we'd be able to sustain that.
That just went up year over year.
Yeah, okay. But for this year, I guess where I'm getting to is with what's been identified in terms of additional savings, in terms of what's been added back in, what is left is not impacting what our parents are most concerned about, and that is instructional capability.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why
I just wanted to make sure I
more tenable.
understood that, and other people understand that as well.
Thank you, Frank. Just a question about the phone and maintenance contract. Is that 26,975 an expenditure that the town side would absorb? Because regardless, we have the contract with the new phone system. So is that just not something that the Board of Education would absorb? That's just.
No,
That's a reduction.
That was purely for that charge.
Okay, so that wasn't the annual contract for the new phone system.
No, that is not for the new phone system.
Okay.
That number represents what we were paying for maintenance of the existing phone system.
Which is going away.
You guys,
It's going away.
I have the paper.
We just
this
voted
board
on the
just
new one.
appropriated funds to change over.
Right.
Right.
Yep. So that would be a savings anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are we allocating any of the new costs to like set up the new system in this budget? Net
So
of-
that's being captured this year with the appropriation, you guys.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
we did the
Okay.
65.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
that is not being spent.
In this, it's
No, it's
next
being
year,
spent
it's in
now.
this fiscal year.
Right.
Right.
Right. Then.
We approved it, it's being spent now, and it'll be implemented for next year.
Good.
Right.
And then those savings will be captured.
So, a question that I don't think we've really discussed, but given all the mitigation, given the new mitigation, that means all of the previous mitigation that involved cutting teachers and all of those worst case scenario things that were in your initial presentation are no longer needed.
Correct.
My question before I saw your presentation was going to be just to ask you to talk about hiring, or when the school system has to notify teachers that if we were making cuts. It may be a moot point, but you may just want to mention what your
Yeah, if there was reduction in force based on a budget adoption, before the referendum. So if this was going out lower, that would have to be by May 1st. We'd have to make sure everybody had their RIF notice and then reduction in force. Any reductions that happen as, if post budget, obviously if there's reductions that just happens.
Another question. Something that came up last year when we were going through all of these legal changes, increases in half a head, pulling back on other heads, just was it the fully loaded payroll, right? Because sometimes you're adding 0.2, they're already on the benefits, you don't have to worry about adding in the benefits piece, right? Just want to make sure that we, the 0.3 speech pathologist, the 0.2 middle school teacher.
I don't think we see an impact. Yeah, when we looked at those numbers, we put benefits in if we needed to, and we wouldn't if we did. And I think for both those positions, we were not anticipating benefits being put in.
But even if they were participating in benefits.
If they were currently participating, it would be a change.
Additional benefits because they're there and they're getting their benefits.
No change.
Yeah, if they're already
It
appointed.
doesn't increase the insurance. It's because they do another, one day.
Just because of everything that we've heard from parents tonight, and thank you all so much for being here. Outside of what came to First Selectman Rooney and now what is with us, is there anything more that you want us to consider?
I mean,
We have a lot of work ahead of us. So starting with Board of Ed, it's the biggest chunk of our budget.
Sure.
So is there anything that you really want us to consider? Yeah.
What did you say?
I'd have to go back and look. I mean,
That we-
listen, and I think it's important to know when we put the budget out, we have some really difficult conversations. And, I think people think, okay, I meet with the principals and the directors and they say, hey, this is what I want. And then they show up in my budget. That's not the case. There are the point 2, the point 3, and the assistant principal positions were, just a couple of the requests that were made. So I'd have to go back and look at that. But I think we also agree as a team, as we've worked through this process, that this is what we need to effectively meet the needs of our students for next year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
If I could speak, Joe, I think you just made a very valid point that a lot of, people that came out here and just like you, I agree. I love that people come out and speak on behalf of what they believe in, but I think it's lost, or it feels like it's lost, the amount of diligence that goes on before these budgets go out. I mean, thousands of hours go out. And a lot of the scenarios that people bring up, they've been discussed, they've been concluded, they've been figured, and by the smartest people that the town has to offer. And I think that's just a good point that, this budget doesn't come to us without a significant amount of hours of due diligence. So just on the municipal side, we do it and we know you do it. It's just putting a budget out forward that we think is reasonable. And it's a very difficult thing. It's a balancing act, so to speak. And, thank you for your collaboration through this process because, without our ability from the municipal and Board of Education side to talk. There is a common knowledge that we don't. We do. We talk on a regular basis and we try to move and make moves moving the town the best way forward. So I just wanted to bring to the attention of the people that braved and are still here because many have gone. It's really easy to come up and talk, but it's really hard to do this for hours and hours and hours. And those of you who stayed, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I reiterated that point, that there is an abundance of time and energy from multiple departments and multiple people before this budget comes out. So just thank you for saying that. And I feel that on the municipal side as well. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay. Ron, we have a question from Sue.
Okay, so we've talked about the 1.2 coming back in. We've talked about the $250,000 in the overall insurance savings. When you plug that in, can you plug that in and tell us what the projected mill rate would be if those two things were executed?
What do we have to wait for the big spreadsheet?
I was going to say, you directed that question to me.
Yes, I should have
Do
directed
you want that
behind.
for the next meeting?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I guess I can wait till
Yeah.
Thursday, but
So- Joe, like my budget that I have all these posted, all these questions. So thank you for updating it because I think a lot of my questions will be answered with the updated section with the year-to-date numbers. So I appreciate you kind of running this with Ron and Heidi and
It was
so
Ron.
I won't, I'm not going to go through my notebook of questions right now because I'm going to kind of go back through it, but I will, circle the wagon and submit any other questions that I have.
That document's still open, so we can just, if you want to just add to where it's left off. If, other questions came up or whatever from tonight, we can Thursday.
Madam Chair, point of order, I guess. Are we going to go through this line item detail on Thursday with Joe and the Stokes? Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
When you have a chance, I just have a follow-up question to the request.
Okay, so Steve just asked if we were going to go through this on Thursday. Yes, the answer is yes. So please review it if you come to the meeting with any questions. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Is it possible for us to get this pie chart inclusive of town totals in terms of salaries, benefits, supplies, capital assets, so that we see what our whole budget is going towards for these categories?
Okay. So That could be a little difficult.
If it was a side by side,
Or like a dual pie chart.
like you could do like town, Board of Ed, and then just the big categories, and then we can see what those differences
Yeah,
are.
because I would have to merge, to get like all salaries together, is that what you're saying?
And all
Well, if you have a pie chart for the town side,
Because both budgets are actually separate, even though they're rolled into, so I'd have to like merge all the.
or if you just total,
What about side by side?
well, side by side.
And just.
Okay, that would be.
The town pie chart with these elements
Yep.
and the Board of Ed pie chart with these elements.
Yeah, just for ratio's sake. Sorry, thank you.
Actually, one more.
So
It's done.
the request on the mill rate, you want that run tonight? Because I do have so you said we'd add the 1.2 back and then there's other adjustments, but as far as, I think as part of some of those adjustments, I would want to, again, the contingency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to put any numbers on mill rates out there.
Well, no, I wasn't going to save any numbers. Again, that's fine. We can do it give you time and if there's other things to add in that we haven't talked about. I was just trying to get an idea of where we were looking. And maybe for the public, nothing is locked in until everything is locked in at the end.
Right.
I think everybody needs to understand the way this body functions. We don't have a lot of detailed motions. We'll get agreement, we'll put something in, we'll see what it is. As we work our way through, until we get to the final meeting where we have 50 motions, literally 50, on every single line item, every single section of the budget. That's when it all becomes final. But before then, we play with numbers on a meeting by meeting basis. We will ask Heidi to add something, take something out, not just for the Board of Ed, but for every department that we go through, and see what does it affect. We also do all the revenue. So everything that Frank will give us and the tax collector will give us, and we just, we play with the spreadsheet or they play with it for us.
Madam Chair, just on Catherine's question about the pie chart. As I was looking at that, obviously, some of my narratives have different charts projecting things. And I was thinking about that on the municipal side, and where I immediately kind of struggled with it is when you're looking at the Board of Education, it's one operation. And it typically operates in parcels that are the same, whether it's salaries, medical insurance, so on and so forth, curriculum. When you go onto the municipal side, you're looking at 18, 19 departments that operate completely different and separate from one another. In other words, DPW has equipment, has paving, where the library has, books and different situations. So every department is very, very unique and different. If you're trying to do a pie chart to combine all of those things in one, it's very difficult. It's almost as if you would kind of have to do it. Ron, do you agree with me? You almost kind of have to do it by department. You could get a roundabout almost, but it wouldn't
That's
give
all
you
I'm
an,
looking for. I'm looking for.
yeah, it wouldn't give you
Very, very rough numbers. And I understand how each individual department works and it's
Yeah,
all
because-
separate budget. So I
Yeah.
just want to know, what is the net budget that, we don't vote on separate lines for the referendum. We vote on one bulk number. So how much is that number going towards supplies? Whatever it is for each of the 18 departments and the Board of Education.
Yeah, it's-
What are we spending in salaries? It's good
You can-
to visualize that as a taxpayer.
Yeah, no, I understand. From where I stand, I want the true story to be told and the true understanding to be told.
I
It's
think
kind of,
those are real numbers.
you can certainly get an idea of some of the bigger stuff, but just the intricate details. So that's just where it gets a little complicated. That's all. We can definitely do a bulk thing. I don't ever want to do something that doesn't reflect complete accuracy. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron, do we have other services, professional services, property services, capital assets, supplies, those categories on both sides that you can because my concern is it looks like the basic, right? But I know from looking at a TB that sometimes grouping things is different from one system to the next, right? So is it like, is asking you to group the TBs for each, the municipal side and then the town side going to be
It's going to be, is it going to
really
be exact mirrors of each
weird?
other? No, but it'll be, I mean, salaries and benefits, we can,
The big ones those can line up, right? But then it's a little bit of other ones that might be a little annoying, but I mean, I think, again,
It's not going to be out.
I mean, you get what I'm, how much massaging you're gonna have to do to get to a true supplies. Look, what are you throwing in other services on the town side that you probably wouldn't throw into other services on the school side? Because what's material on each side is different.
well, yeah, probably, legal and audit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a dollar.
It's not going to be an apples to apples, but it'll.
Almost like the groupings. We had the groupings of how you get there, and then we can kind of see those totals. We could utilization, do bar charts, do pie charts, do whatever. If we have all the raw numbers kind of totaled up, right?
I mean, we basically have to recast the, it's not like it'll take a little bit of work, but we'd recast the budget, by object code instead of by department.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's the thing. I knew there's always a catch, right? But yeah, okay.
If it's not doable, it's not doable. It's okay. I don't want it to be a huge to-do, really.
You can think of a way.
Yeah.
It ends up highly complicated, which it's doable, but I don't know by Thursday. That's, it's definitely doable.
We're
It's just highly complicated with all the moving parts of 18 different departments. Joe, you're lucky you only have one big one. I have 18 little ones.
It's just one line on your.
All different minds.
Any other questions for Joe for tonight?
I'll say it. I'll put it on the spreadsheet.
Good?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Joe.
Are there any other items to discuss before we close?
I have one comment to go on something that was said during this public hearing and at the last public participation and online. And that's someone spoke and talked about using the taxpayer refund, the $2.7 million. And I think there's a misconception because of, and nothing intentional, the wording that was used in the description, that's not a refund that is being sent back to the taxpayers. We are taking from the general fund and applying it as a, quote, revenue source to reduce what would otherwise be required in taxes. Now, if I've said any of that wrong,
No, I think
Heidi,
No.
correct me,
that's
but
accurate.
I think it's important for the public to understand where that money's coming from, how it goes into the budget, and yeah,
So it's not a physical refund check
right.
that
It's
people are
not a
getting.
physical refund, so we're not taking 2.7 million and then take $400,000 less and put it someplace else.
Right.
It's going into the total budget to reduce the amount of revenue that must be raised by taxes. And it has a positive effect on lowering the mill.
Right. Thank you for that clarification. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.